across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So, very good morning, just after 6. This is Jeremy Kyle, and this is Talk, the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brits. And before we get into it, a very good morning to the legend that is Big Rob, a regular on the show from Newcastle, man, currently in Vegas on his last night, having a great time with our Bev. Rob is like, he's a hard man, and Rob is... And do you know his favourite pastime? Shopping the big girls' blouse. He likes going to Vegas so he can go shopping. Hope you had a good time, big fella. We've missed you. Morning to Angry Rob. You were sorely missed yesterday. We had no voice note. We were devastated, but it's just gone 6 o'clock. And before we get into this, Charlie Rowley is here, and I'm slightly confused because breaking news that civil servants face formal action if they misgender trans colleagues. New Whitehall guidance outlines disciplinary action for those who deliberately refuse or refer to co-workers by their preferred name or gender. Morning, Mary. How are you? Because Charlie's a girl's name, isn't it? So I've no chance of knowing.
It is. I've been called worse. So
Have you?
I'll take anything.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Here's hinge to my bracket. We're here until 7 o'clock. Please get the calls in nice and early. Christian, the A-team are in. 0344 499 1000 87222. Christian, who is the executive producer of this show and calls the shots, has been sort of... We've all been replaced by the Queen. Neha, very quietly, has assumed control of this show, and she's in charge. The Queen, good morning. You're all bowing down to the Queen. And we're also bowing down to Charlie. How are you? I'm on fire this morning. What's going on?
It's great to be here. Great to see you.
Right, breaking news. This is going to become a regular thing with Andy Burnham. He does it just so I've got something to talk about. Breaking news, my friends. This has just been released by Downing Street. Most single bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from the 1st of January 2027. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has just announced that is most single bus fares. Don't know how many that entails. Will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, so not for 6 months. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has just announced. We'd love to know what you make of that. I would only simply say, and I am not being cynical, Charlie, because it's everywhere this morning, who's going to pay, as the Daily Mail says, for Andy's largesse? Yesterday, you weren't here, we had the I'm cutting VAT off energy bills, and everybody went, right, so an energy bill is £800, and VAT on domestic energy bills is 5%, so that's £40, but the bills are going up by 13% anyway, so that's a con. And this morning, bus fares are going to be capped at £2 from January the 1st. Is this are we heading towards the B bus line from Manchester? What does this mean? Who's going to pay for this, by the way?
Well, you're absolutely right. That is the number one question. Who's paying for all of these announcements that Andy Burnham seems to be sort of plucking out of thin air? The guy, by the way, that nobody knew what he stood for. None of this was, brought out during a leadership campaign because he didn't have that kind of contest.
He's just being bitchy now. He's the Prime Minister. We've got to deal with it. I'm more concerned, right? I mean, it's all well and good to go kick off on the right footing, and I don't want... I've said all along, I actually am a patriot, so I don't want to be cynical. But yesterday, within 15 minutes of that announcement as the energy cut, Darren Jones had been sacked. When are you going to pay for it? All the rats are already fighting in the sack. Today, most single bus fares in England, most concerns me, will be capped at £2 from January. Not instantaneously, but I want to know how we're going to pay for it. I mean, I would love, as a bit of fun... Tell me about your experiences on the bus. Usually there's people who are drunk, people who don't pay, sometimes there's loud music, most people seem to be eating smelly food, and occasionally people have it off on the back seat. So, can I tell you a very true story? This is absolutely...
Why did you look at me? You looked at me when you said that.
This is absolutely true story. It was a Victoria Wood true sketch, and she said that she was on an English bus, because it was English, because everybody was playing loud music, and nobody said a word, and this couple started making out on the back seat. But because it was an English bus, nobody said a word. And they literally had sex. And nobody said a word. Everyone, and then when they'd finished, the bloke sat up and lit up a cigarette. And 3 people stood up and said, I think you'll find it's a non-smoking bus. That is so English, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, for far too long. People don't call things out that they see on the bus. For example, people that come on and blast their music out. That's antisocial behaviour, in my view. But you're absolutely... The thing that really bugs me
People like cheap buses, although Rob has already texted from Newcastle saying, that's great news, I'm going to have to sell my Bentley immediately. Thank you, King of the North. So that's gone really well, hasn't it?
But we just want people to pay, you're absolutely right. But the fact that you still see today on the tubes, people do not pay. They just push through the barriers and expect everybody else to pick up the tab.
I don't want people to think I'm being completely cynical, but I am, because I know what's happening here. We're going to have a raft of announcements. I want to know how they're being paid for. The VAT thing blown out the water. Who's going to pay for the buses? And then I'm going to get serious. If I was Andy Burnham, I would be absolutely livid about last night. And I know that there are people who perhaps won't think this is the biggest story. I think it is utterly disgusting. Today, the 2 scumbags that murdered, well, PC Andrew Harper was killed when he was dragged for more than a mile along country roads, when his ankles got caught in the tow rope of a car after he'd gone to investigate the theft of a quad bike. The 2... I don't know what they were, Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, who were jailed for 13 years in 2020. 13 years in 2020 will today, OK, be released from jail under Labour, part of their early release scheme. That in itself is deplorable and wrong, and I hate it, and I've said it repeatedly on the show. In my mind, if you get a prison sentence, you should serve it. But guess what happens last night? The new reset, the Andy Burnham government that cares. It's not something to joke about, and yet last night, a hot mic moment, so this was picked up at a drinks thing, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary in West Streeting, of course, on a hot mic, laughing about the early prisoner release. Have we got this? Have we got this? Honestly, I don't care who you are, this is utterly, utterly disgusting. Have a listen.
How are you? You know he's the enemy now, isn't he, Justice Shabana? No, he's not.
You probably on the radio can't hear specifically, but Wes Streeting and Shabana Mahmood said to the new Justice Secretary, Alex Doss, he wants to let them all out. To me, if I would be raging if I was Andy Burnham. I'd be angry enough about the VAT thing and trying to con people in this morning, but that is absolutely disgraceful. Both the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and the Defence Secretary have issued statements apologising for their comments. Well, how about the family of PC Harper? And how about the people who have been victims of people who have committed crimes who you're letting out early, and then you laugh at it? And that is the sort of thing that all politicians seem to be able to do, is put their foot in the crap at the first opportunity. So wrong. So disrespectful. Sorry, really angry about it.
100%, and everybody will be behind you in what you say this morning, because we were told repeatedly by the Labour government that even with an early release scheme of prisoners, that they won't be you know, the kind of prisoners that do the hard crimes. You know, they'll just be the ones that have done the petty theft, the people that actually can come out early. These not the hard and fast criminals. Well, now we know that actually it is people that have committed these kinds of crimes, people that commit sexual violence.
They killed a guy and they're out after 6 years, right? And then the Cabinet think it's funny. Yeah. That's disgusting.
Yeah, and if you are Andy Burnham, you're absolutely right. You know, he's appointed Wes Streeting. By the way, Wes Streeting that obviously gave Andy Burnham a bit of flack, because he sort of said that he was going to run against him, and then bottled it, and obviously thought, OK, he'll take a job in the Cabinet. But the lack of disrespect towards not just the Prime Minister, but the families and victims of those that are now going to have to face the felons, the criminals, the people that have committed crimes against them, now walking among us.
I know, so much. Listen, there's lots to talk about. There's a poll that, despite the dodgy start, Labour have drawn level with Reform for the first time ever. Apparently both Reform and Labour on 28%. The Tories not moving on 18. We'll see if that's true. The convicted fraudster Louise Haigh, who's now the second most powerful person in British government, has been stripped overnight of her oversight of fraud role in her new office, because, of course, she's a convicted fraudster. Angela Rayner's under pressure, as are others, to give back the money, because they got 17 grand when they were fired. Now they're back. Do they not have to give that back? We've just seen this slew of really sick videos, by the way, from the Labour people going back. Have we got the Angela Rayner one? Have we got that video? They're so happy in a department. They posted a video of putting a picture of her face back on the wall. Have a watch of this if you're watching on YouTube.
OK, guys, we're back. Did you miss us? Because we missed you.
So, Angela, I mean, sorry, I'm having a bad morning. Also, civil servants are being offered a bonus to work up north, which is probably a good thing. The White House is concerned that Burnham, has Ed Miliband as Foreign Secretary. Thought that was a bit rich from Boris Johnson yesterday, saying, I think this is very, very worrying. Very worrying. There is a thing about Miliband, though, that when he was the leader of the opposition in 2015, he voted against action against Syria, which they are saying had a profound impact on Putin going in. But loads on that. Also more about that horrendous murder of Anne Widdecombe. Prosecutors have said that she was battered 21 times over the head with a hammer by a man who allegedly burst in to initiate her lunch. Obviously, we've got to let the proceedings play out, but Joshua Kerry, a 28-year-old from Rotherham, I think, has been charged with her murder. And my favourite story of the day, peeps, is a hosepipe ban. I'm really sorry. I know Christian's going to get angry and his finger's going to hover over the buzzer. Why is it that it pees down with rain for 6 damn months? You can't even walk for water, and yet at the first sign of a bit of sun, we've got a bloody hosepipe ban. And I'm going to tell you something, right? This is the first time I've ever done. I stopped paying my council tax on the 1st of July because the buggers didn't collect my bins, right? And apparently I'm not allowed to water my garden. So I'm not condoning anybody. I'm not suggesting this, but I'm really angry with my council. But why have I got to stop watering my garden? Well, the grass will die. Why have I got to give it... Why don't Thames in Water, right, stop paying their bosses huge amounts of bonuses and fix their pipes that leak billions of gallons every day? I'm watering my garden. You can do one. Well, I'm not watering my garden. Obviously, the gardener's going to water my garden. That would be a ridiculous comment. Obviously, I'm walking around with a bloody hose. That's ridiculous.
I was wondering what you get up to in your spare time. I thought I might have to come round and...
Well, you might have to hold my hose for me.
Water plants for you. But
you've choked now, haven't you? Oh, he's gone. She's gone. She's gone. She's gone.
But the rest of the world must be laughing at us. We are a nation surrounded by water, and yet we can't, bring the water in, to take it into reservoirs that we haven't built, to be able to make sure that we don't have ridiculous things like these hosepipe bans. It is ridiculous. It's
unbelievable. I'd like to know about you this morning. How is Andy going to pay for it all? What do you make of that disgusting hot night moment on day 2 of the Burnham, I was going to say presidency, and a hosepipe ban? Will you? I mean, I'm not. You must. You don't want to get into trouble. I'm just so hacked off, right? You're right, we're surrounded by water. It pees with rain 6 months a year and we're incapable. The important point is what I said. The bosses at Thames Water and these companies are getting billions of pounds worth of bloody bonuses and we're all in trouble. 6:15, we're going to do something special next. 0344 499 1000. That's your telephone number. Send us a voice note to Christian. There's a prize this morning for the first one. It's the same as yesterday. Overnight oats with custard. Don't ask me why. Or you can text us. Awful, doesn't it? 87222, back in 3.
Some breaking news. 8 men have been charged with rape and child sex offences as part of a grooming gang operation in South Wales. They've been charged with more than 30 offences. According to the CPS, the charges relate to 8 victims who were children.
Well, let me start by giving comment on Alison Hernandez, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Devon and Cornwall. She's a stupid, idiotic sycophant.
Anne Widdecombe was murdered, the most high-profile murder in Britain for many, many decades. She was murdered because she supported the reform agenda.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:17. So we are live across the UK on the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. Whatever you want to talk about. Early release of those two scumbags who murdered PC Andrew Harper, laughed about by Street Ingham Mahmood last night in a hot mic moment. Burnham today is interesting. Bus fares across London, this is his breaking news, will be capped at £2. He said 2 million. From January the 1st, 2027. This is a lovely, lovely moment for Andy. Bus fares are going to be £2, not till January. Here's the question. Manic Man, whatever your name is, how are you going to pay for it? That's the thing. But listen, before we get into your calls and your texts, today is a very, very important day. There is a legendary broadcaster. No, it's not Chris Evans. He's on holiday. I've known this man as long as you could possibly imagine. He's one of the most talented people, it says here, ever to do radio. Currently doing the Virgin Breakfast Show because everybody else is on holiday. Stevie Dennis, 50 today.
Oh, I love you. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy birthday.
Oh my goodness.
Happy birthday to you.
She likes it. Very nice. Buttons are flying up without me touching them here. What's going on? I don't know, very technically able. Happy birthday, dear.
Thank you. Can you believe it? 50.
Do you get your bus pass yet?
No, apparently it's in the post. It's being made. I think it's being laminated right now.
Because it would have to be in your life, be laminated. You go on the bus quite a lot. You're an oddity in this studio. Charlie and I have never been on a bus.
Do you know, it's really interesting. If you live in London, it's a really good way to get around because...
Yeah, the traffic. Isn't the tube better?
No, because you've got the lanes, haven't you? The buses have got their lanes.
You see, that annoys me as well. I'm turning into my dad. Why don't they do that for cars? Why do I have to wait for bloody buses all the time and those people on bikes? Do you ride a bike?
Certainly not. Look at me.
No, good, I don't know what to say. Charlie, isn't it lovely? He's 50 years old.
I know.
Charlie, good morning.
I know, and not many people obviously know that when they come on and listen to this show, they don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But every morning when we come in here, Steve is here, the studio next door. We always have a good natter around the tea, around the water cooler, I think it used to be called.
Is that where you is that where you go, you two, behind the water cooler?
We should get it sponsored, shouldn't we? Our gossips, our morning gossips. But,
no, but on a serious note, if you, I mean, don't leave me because I've only got 11 of you. But you want to listen to this man on Virgin Radio? It's amazing. You're in for Chris. You got some. I was walking in this morning. Who have you got this morning?
Simon Pegg is in this morning.
I mean, he's got Simon Pegg, and I've got Charlie Rowley. He's got a man who was in Mission Impossible, and I've got a man who was in a club in Soho last night. It just doesn't work, does it? You know what I mean?
At least you didn't say Position Impossible.
Thank you. Yeah. What are you going to say? Different for you two, actually. Well, let's not talk Soho with you. We get into trouble. Pegg. What are you going to talk to Simon Pegg about?
Well, so he was in this big Channel 4 drama last night, which is called Undeclared War, which is all about. It's so relevant. Russia. Going to war with us, the Russian jets coming into our airspace and stuff, and he's like in GCHQ, kind of running the whole thing. It's amazing. Do you know the most popular Greggs in the country is inside GCHQ?
What? Greggs?
Greggs, they've got their own Greggs in there.
I've never been to Greggs.
It's the most profitable Greggs in
So
the
everybody
UK.
who's a spy likes a vegan sausage roll. It's unbelievable. It's a great fact.
It's all about the steak bake.
I can't imagine you going into Greggs for a sausage roll.
As aware.
So posh. Do they have them in Pimlico?
Do you mean Gales?
No, Greggs. Greggs. And Greggs is so popular, isn't it?
Oh, massive, yeah.
But when you're interviewing somebody like Simon Pegg, are you nervous? Are you prepared, or you just have a chat?
He's fascinating because he's got so many other things going on. He's got, you know, the 28 Days Later movies.
Yeah.
He's a DJ. He's Fatboy Slim's favourite DJ. I cannot wait to get into all of this with him.
This is amazing.
So he's an amazing guy.
You are an amazing man. We love you. We love Virgin. You know, we can offer you so much across this network. I mean, I know where I rank. If you want the best music and you want the best tune, it's the Chris Evans Breakfast Show this morning with the amazing Steve Denny. If you want the up-to-date sport, you might as well go to the best sports station in the land, talkSport. And if you've got nothing else to bloody do, you might as well land here amongst a bunch of misfits trying to make a living.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Give a round of applause.
Thank
Stevie D, the one for me. Now you're going to have to get out and walk behind me whilst I'm talking. That'll be good.
Gosh, okay.
Doesn't matter.
Here we go.
Listen, thank you so much already. Charlie's upset. Thank you so much already for your text messages. 87222. If you're waking up this Wednesday, the 22nd of July, you're waking up to the news that early prisoner release of those two... I don't want to talk about it. It just annoys me. PC Andrew Harper, of course, who was murdered, dragged along a road in the country when his ankles got caught in a tow rope of a car that he'd gone to investigate the theft of a quad bike. Two young men, Albert Bowes and Jesse Cole, were jailed for 13 years, which isn't enough, in 2020. They're out today. They're out. You might have a thought on that. For me, it just smacks of how bad our justice system is. But last night in a hot mic moment, on just the second day of Burnham's leadership, whatever, Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting are caught laughing about it and saying to the new Justice Secretary, oh, you want to let them all out. It's not a bloody laughing matter. It's serious. Our justice system is on its backside. That other big breaking news in the last few minutes, most single bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has announced we're going to see a raft of this, we're giving that. How are you going to pay for it, right?
Absolutely. And I feel a little bit sceptical.
So do I, and I didn't on Monday. I was trying to give him a chance.
Well, exactly. Look, you know, there's nothing wrong with some of the announcements that he's made, whether it's trying to tackle rough sleeping, particularly people that are veterans.
Charlie, we're going to argue. We're going to argue. The rough sleeping thing, right? I was in Manchester when this happened. It was the first thing out of his gob. Rough sleeping has doubled in Manchester whilst Andy Burnham has been Prime Minister. If we don't front this out, we're missing the point. When I hear King of the North... I lived there for 15 years and did the Jeremy Kyle show. Piccadilly is now known as Crackadilly, and that is not even made up. There are people out of their heads on spice, there's migrant problems, there's all sorts. Andy Burnham has not changed Manchester to the great thing that is being told by these people who got him into power. And when I get fed this, oh, we're cutting VAT, that's a con. We're going to do bus fares, how are you going to pay for it? Those questions need to be asked. You cannot just arrive in Downing Street in a coup and expect us all to swallow what you're throwing at us when we don't know what your motivation is.
Well, no, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And the problem that he's got is because he didn't face a leadership contest, because these policies weren't flushed out where people challenged him to say, right, that's an interesting idea, or it's a good idea, or it's a terrible idea.
Do you know what Mark just said?
Pay for it?
Do you know what Mark just said? He's absolutely right. He's killing the country with kindness, and anybody with a brain cell says, how are we paying for it and what's coming next? Lee, good morning.
Morning, Jesse. Lee from Scarborough in his aeroplane off to work. Veteran, mate. All these things that are coming out, breaking news. Oh, we're going to cap bus fares. Oh, we're going to take 5% off your VAT, your VAT on electric bills. Mate, what about real policies? What about immigration? Eh? Cost of living. That cost of living, like you say, 13%, mate. Our bills are going up and he's taking 5% off. Oh, wow. Big wow. Honestly, all these peripheral little things that he's doing don't make anything, mate. Let's just make myself look good. Oh, we're going to cut that. We're going to do that. What about price of petrol? What about I have diesel, fuel, mate, heating oil. Mate, it's gone up like 500 quid. It's still 500 quid. What am I getting? Nothing. I'm off to work. I'm paying for all this, Jezza. Anyway, great show. Keep it up, fella, as usual.
He's absolutely right, though, isn't he? People can go, what's he moaning about? He's going to work again to pay his taxes for what? To be screwed over, to see a government... I'm sorry, Andy Burnham, this is a fact. They're releasing criminals early and laughing about it. Now, the other story, this is brilliant. Civil servants face formal action if they misgender trans colleagues. New Whitehall guidance outlines disciplinary action for those who deliberately refuse to refer to co-workers by their preferred name or gender. I'm not getting embroiled, but I'm just going to ask, is there a situation where people might not know that you're trans and then you get into trouble for saying something that you don't mean to? Is that a fair criticism?
Absolutely, I think, and but the idea that you and I and Christian and Mark and everyone else that is blatantly a man in this office. I mean, questionable. But we would have to, in the past, have to put on the signature of our emails, he, him. As if people didn't know. Just to accommodate
Are we supposed to now check that before we have a conversation with somebody?
I think you might have to, yes, yeah, just to make sure that I'm still...
let me tell you about Neha. She's got she and queen. Those are her preferred, because she is in charge of this show. Good morning, JK. Today I identify as a stapler, so the civil service can shove it up their backsides. We live in a crazy world. Says Sean. Damien's in Preston. Morning, D. He says, the new guidance from Whitehall is an attack on free speech. We can all agree that there are things that we shouldn't say. try working with Damien. But this is compelling speech, and there has never been a time in English common law history that anyone's been compelled to alter their speech, especially when the speech they're compelling people to use is a lie. I wonder what the Supreme Court would have to say. Good morning to Mark in Croydon. Somebody better tell Andy Pandy, most people in Croydon don't pay for buses in the first place. They just walk on. Back to the drawing board, King of the North. Morning, Jez. Tim Hutton, buses used to be capped at £2 under the Tories. Guess who put it up to £3? The Labour Party. That's quite interesting. Now they brought it down again. Does Andy Pandy realise not everybody lives in a city? Rural Britain has hardly any buses and use oil and gas for energy, so VA cut on that for 2, please, says Patrick in Cornwall. Well, we've done that yesterday. That was a con, but yeah. Rena demands for her to return her 17 grand redundancy payment from last year, but she can't. The money is all gone. It's spent on vapes, style consultants and an elocution lessons, says Bill in Cheshire. She had a bit of a glam makeover, hadn't she? I mean, to be honest, again, I'm going to get into trouble. Don't think it's difficult to look glamorous with some of the people that walked up Downing Street the other day, but she's having a style makeover with the glasses and the slick hair. Yeah, I think she did. I think a few of them did. Louise Haigh seems to have a bit of a transformation as well. Yes, she was the convicted fraudster. Yes, she didn't transform from that though, did she? But she's changed the colour of her hair. She worries me. To think that she's the second most powerful person in the United Kingdom. She's the first Secretary of State. Does that mean she stands in for him at Prime Minister's Question Time? She could, yes, absolutely. Yes, I imagine she will. I can't believe we've got to wait till October for Burnham to face the Commons. Morning, JK and the lovely Charlie says, Cliff, in our area we were forced onto water meters once the water company were able to get designated an area with stress on the water supply. Since then, they built thousands of new homes. This is the other story. Thames Water. Yeah, that company that's billions in debt pays its bosses billions of pounds worth of bonuses and loses millions of pounds worth of water every day because their pipes are leaking. And they've decided to ban hose pipes and water for 10 million customers. You're not allowed. And this is the irony of the whole situation. Do you know what's going to happen this weekend? After 6 weeks of a heat wave? It's going to rain. So why don't you use some of that rain? And to think that Andy Burnham is considering nationalising water companies. So not a bad thing if you may, because, you know, all the billions... I never know what that means, nationalise. What does it mean? So it means the government will come in and basically take over and run it. So it will be part of the public purse, but it means public money, so taxpayers' money, instead of just being a bill paid, but taxpayers' money will have to go into, A, fund all the infrastructure that hasn't been reinvested by the private companies, but also it means that the taxpayer will have to fill up all the bill for the water companies. We missed him yesterday, but at 6:30 he's back. Angry Rob, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Charlie. Rob on his way to work. Already we're on the Burnham thing, ain't we? Right, who's going to pay for the bus fares? Who do you think's going to pay for the bus fares, mate? It's going to be us. Like I said the other day, he's going to take out his little magic Marxist wand, wave it around, and the taxpayers will pick up the bill. The other day it was the VAT on fuel, which is a joke, because it ain't even a spit in the ocean. And it'll just keep getting better and better and better. Burnham won't stop, mate, until we're absolutely hammered through the floor by tax. He's basically going to be like the DFS carpet sale. Remember them adverts? They never end. So every day or every week you're going to get little announcements of how great he is and what he's doing. It's all bread and circuses, mate. There's got to be nothing of any meat. It's all got to be little scraps just to make the plebs think that he's doing something good, when really he is taking the absolute pee out of all of us. I told you before, whatever you thought Starmer was, mate, he's going to put a cherry on top, set fire to it and launch it straight off a cliff. The bloke's an out-and-out Marxist. Just look at who he replaced Ed Miliband with. That woman is an absolute zealot. I tell you, you look into her. What an absolute freak show this government's going to be.
There you have it, Angry Rob's take on 2 days of Andy Burnham. I'd love to have Andy Burnham in this studio with Angry Rob. Do you know what I mean? It'd be amazing.
I mean, Rob's great, but I just wish he'd say what he really thinks.
I know.
At times. He's just...
Now, this is worrying. Good morning to Graham Pack, who's from Bushy, where I was conceived.
Yes.
Under Burnham's diktats, we are getting to be more and more not like North Korea. Hopefully... It's Graham Bushy. He won't end up making us all have haircuts like Charlie Rowley.
Oh, no!
Kim Jong-Rowley.
Those are my pronouns, Kim Jong.
Oh, sorry, is that you? Him and Kim. So, yeah, the haircuts took a lot of stick the other day. You see, what's happened now is it's growing a bit at the side. It's gone all floppy on top.
It's
rubbish. You need to get it done. There's too much on top.
Times I've heard that. It's settled a bit, though, at the sides. I think, isn't that what they say? It's settled when you have a new haircut? Or
God.
I might have a trim later. Well, I think it's OK. I think I'll...
Are you going to, when you go home after the show, will you be going on a bus?
Yes, I will, actually. Yes. I'll get the train and then I'll get the bus.
Did you get the bus?
I do, yes, yeah. I've ridden a bus once or twice.
I bet you have. Morning, JK. Wouldn't dream of going on a bus to the city. Way too dangerous. I'm an OA piece. Is Christina. Nicholas in Norfolk. Morning, Jez. And lovely Charlie. Already the Messiah's government is showing just how woeful they are, whether it's trumpeting cost of living savings, which amount to mere pennies, or the hot mic moment with the new cabinet laughing about the prisoner early release scheme. They are showing they are not fit for purpose and they are not serious politicians. It's embarrassing. I have to say, it's Margaret in Birmingham says they're morons and they're showing it already. That hot mic moment is such a bad look, isn't it? It really, really is. David Thomas, Jez, hot mic. That incident reveals how detached politicians seriously are from the electorate and the contempt they hold for us, and we expect more from them. We are witnessing the beginning of the premature end of Burnham's tenure. He's only been there since Monday, but there's already been 2 or 3 mistakes.
Well, if you add them up already, so, you know, the announcing the 5% VAT reduction, which Darren Jones, the former Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, not an insignificant figure in the last government, saying that it's not going to be funded because it was supposed to be funded by this digital ID scheme that he was running, and he said he didn't have the money for it in the first place. So it's not being funded. You've then got that other story that you talked about, Louise Haigh being stripped from her responsibilities already as the, you know, fraud.
She's the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and the First Secretary of State, and she's really Andy Burnham's enforcer. Because she's a convicted fraudster, overnight she's been stripped of the Oversight of Fraud Office in her new role.
Yeah.
So she's lost already some part of her brief because...
She shouldn't have had it in the first place. I mean, you know...
I see, we're back there again. He's waltzed into Downing Street on Monday with, the fantastic opportunity in the space of 48 hours. And maybe I'm naive, peeps. Maybe I've no idea what politics is about, right? I'd have had him on a leash. You got the hot mic moment, you got the VAT announcement, which has been torpedoed because it's a lie, and you could say he's misled us already, and now we've got the bus thing, which isn't till January, and again, everybody in every paper is going, well, sorry, how are you going to pay for this?
Yeah, and the public aren't stupid because...
No, they're not.
Another story yesterday, you know, we're now close to £3 trillion in debt, and the debt interest repayments that we pay every month cost more than the whole defence budget put together. And, you know, the previous government couldn't even stump up 3% of GDP to fund our defence. So we're paying more on debt day in, day out. We're now funding all of these. So we haven't got the wriggle room in the coffers. And now we're funding all of these policies that Burnham is announcing. People will just ask that question. You're right, it's the front page of the Mail. Who's going to pay for all of this?
I think it's really interesting because I don't think that... I know politicians really angered the British people with the expenses scandal. And, you know, you always see elections and it says, oh, only 40, 50%. I don't think the silent majority have ever been more switched on than they are right now. I think there's a real sense of unfairness, there's a sense of that's not right, and people are going to question Burnham every day. I'm sure the sentiment's great. Let's lower bus fares, let's get rid of VAT. But as the Mail says, who's going to pay the bill for Andy's largesse? And anybody with a historical brain... Don't take my word for it. Go back, Google it, do whatever. You will discover that every single socialist government does this and raises the taxes of Middle England. That is the truth.
Yeah, and, you know, the last 2 budgets that we've had, I know Rachel Reeves isn't the Chancellor anymore. A lot of people will be relieved about that. But, you know, she put up taxes when she said she wasn't going to put up taxes. National insurance contributions went up when she said she wasn't going to put those up.
I wonder what she's doing now, Rachel Thieves.
Well, she was at the pub, wasn't she?
Yes, having a drink, yeah. Morning, Hev.
Good morning, Jeremy. This is Hev from Kent. Yeah, I'm sick to the back teeth of all this hosepipe ban and whatever. I mean, it just really stresses me out because, like, I have loads of water reserve around my property. Why don't other people do that? No, they have to fill up their flipping swimming pools. We all know this is going to happen every year, and these big companies that make loads and loads of money and loads of profits, they shouldn't be allowed to. They should not be allowed to. And the CEOs of companies wind me up, especially not just the Water Board but charities too. Yeah, that's my rant for the day.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 22 minutes to 7 o'clock. Mark, who's instrumental to the show, has just pointed something out, Charlie, which is quite interesting. So, we've had breaking news that most single bus fares in England, this is from the new Prime Minister, Andy... Why did I say Randy Andy? I mean Andy Pandy. I'm sure he's not Randy at all. Yeah, that's the other Andy, isn't it? Yes. Andy Pandy has said that bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. Prime Minister has announced. Lots of people saying, where are you getting the money from? Mark, who's a legend, has just pointed something out, Charlie, and this is going to be laughed at. If this implodes as quickly as it's looking like it's going to be implode, will Andy Burnham be there before bus prices are dropped? I mean, is he... And everybody laughed when an ex-colleague of mine, and I'm not going into any details, said, and I quote, Starmer's got 2 years, and everybody went, you're joking. No, he was spot on. I don't think that... honestly, this ain't going well, is it?
Well, look, nobody necessarily expected the Liz Truss tenure to end after just 49 days. And that was basically because of, OK, she put out a mini budget that didn't turn out to be too mini. It had quite a significant impact on the markets. But if the markets turn against you and there is fear in the economy, there's a run on the pound, people pull out their investments, he's not going to get... Well, he hasn't got any wiggle room anyway to fund these policies.
The point is, for people tuning in going, oh, yeah, come on, you and Charlie are being a bit unfair. Right, here's in essence. I get the sentiment of I need to tell the people to give them something, a sweetener. Their backs are against the wall. The cost of living is an issue. But for me, it's fundamentally wrong to say that to people and not be able to explain that actually, at this moment in time, anything I give you, I'm ultimately going to have to charge you for. It is blindingly obvious to me that if you cut 11 billion off the foreign aid budget, you could build some prisons, build some ships and give people a tax sweetener. But no, he will have to placate all the different facets that got him to where he is. I mean, have you heard this story about that Scotsman, Anis Salwa? He's the leader of Scottish Labour. He's the one who came out first up and called for Starmer to resign. We haven't heard anything about Anis Salwa until this morning. Apparently, he's going to give him a peerage so he can join his government from the House of Lords. That's not a particularly good look for Andy, is it? Because he waxed lyrical, didn't he, on Monday about new politics and devolving power away from Westminster. And now you're bringing a Scots leader in who's not at all an MP in London, giving him a peerage of a House of Lords you disagree with so that he can be in your cabinet because you're paying off somebody that was probably behind the coup.
Absolutely.
And we've only had 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it smacks of, you know, the old boys club again. It smacks of the old kind of politics that people want to get away from.
Do you know what I wanted on Monday? I don't care what your political party. I needed somebody standing down in the street and say, guys, it's really bad. And I'm not going to wax lyrical and tell you that I'm going to wipe your backsides. I'm going to tell you that if we ever get out of this mess, it's going to be hard. But I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be truthful. And there's going to be some good days and some bad days, because that's the way it is. And if you can't accept that, because I'm not bankrupting this country still further on the altar of lying to you to be popular. I don't care if I'm unpopular. You voted for me. That's what's happening.
And it's... I was no fan of Rishi Sunak. You know, I'm open about that. But the one thing that he did do after, you know, tumultuous period of Boris, Liz coming in, only lasting 49 days. Obviously, he lost the leadership to Liz, but at least there was a debate of ideas during that Tory leadership contest. To Rishi's credit, he did sort of come into Downing Street with no fanfare, with no fake applause of people standing behind him saying that he's the great messiah that's going to save the Tory party, that's then going to save the country. And he did deliver that kind of speech to say, you know, we've got to get back to the reality now. Tough choices are going to have to be made. He's going to make them. I mean, unfortunately, he didn't go make them, and and didn't have a great record on the back of it.
But he failed because he didn't go ahead with the boats problem very quickly. But no, I'm with you, and I just think I think people are more switched on than they've ever been.
And also, look, you know, all of these sweets that seem to be handed out. OK, the VAT off your energy bills, the £2 cap on buses. OK, it might sort of cheer some people up, but other people might question it, but ultimately, if Burnham came in to say, right, I can give you these sweets, but also I've got to take a few things away, so we're going to have to make some public spending cuts where we can, then I can fund that. Then people might think, OK, actually, don't worry about the bus cap, because we don't actually need that.
But more than that as well, if you knocked on the door, I suspect, of most constituencies across the land, and I'm not being disrespectful to Burnham or the Labour Party, and I get the bus thing, I don't get the VAT thing because it's a con. People want immigration, the welfare budget bill, net zero, the rape gang inquiries. They want these things dealt with. They want to know about our defence. They want to know about policemen and women on the streets. I mean, I'm not dissing, but do you know what I've got the impression over? This is terrible. Over the last 2 days, I watched him yesterday and I thought, this is a country, not a city, buddy. This is bigger than Manchester, and that is a fear. Julie, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Charlie. Julie from Norfolk. I can't believe what I've just watched. They are actually laughing at us, the people. Laughing at us. And as for Shabana Mahmood, throwing her head back and laughing, they don't care about this country. They don't care about the people of this country. They just care about greasing their pockets with our money and giving it away to all in sundry. I'm appalled by their behaviour.
What Julie's talking about is, and it doesn't work brilliant on the radio, but we'll play it. There was a gathering. They were drinking cups of tea or whatever, and Shabana Mahmood sent back to the Home Office, and Wes Street and the new Defence Secretary were obviously having a conversation because today Steve Harper, Andrew Harper's killers, are set to be released from jail under Labour. These two thugs killed this PC by dragging him along a country road for a mile behind a car. He'd gone to investigate the theft of a quad bike. I mean, it begs so many questions about the length of sentences. But last night, in a hot mic moment, Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting were heard laughing with the new Justice Secretary. If you can hear it, they just go, oh, he wants to let them all out. Let's see if we can hear this.
Oh, are you? No, he's the enemy now, isn't Justice? No, he's
She's throwing her head back, Mahmood, while Wes Streeting says he wants to let them all out. Now, listen, I'm not going to pass judgment because, well, actually, I am. You're really good, all of you, aren't you, at passing judgment? You call people who dare to disagree with you as far right or with thugs or unintelligent. That is disgusting behaviour, and Andrew Harper's widow and his family must be absolutely raging this morning. We've had apologies from the Home Secretary and the new Defence Secretary apologising for their comments. But there you have it. Encapsulated day 3. VAT. Blown apart by Darren Jones. Free bus fares. How are you going to pay for it? The Home Secretary and the Defence Secretary laughing about the release of prisoners. And they wonder, Charlie, genuinely they wonder why British people in this country are going, honest to God, mate, I can't have this. These people do my head in.
Well, that clip could be, you know, thinking about it in reflection and seeing it 2 or 3 times as big as what the last Labour government got into trouble for, which was leaving a note that said there is no money left, which was absolutely true because, you know, Labour, I'm afraid, bankrupted the country back in 2007-8. The idea that we will see an early prisoner release scheme, we're seeing it now, with not just people who have served a little bit of time because they might be repeat offenders of small crimes, although I don't think any small crime is small, but there you are.
I agree. I agree.
If you're in prison, you're in prison. But the idea that someone, 2 people that have committed the kind of crime that they have against Andrew Harper, people that have committed sexual offences, will be released. Now, what does that say about us as a country, as a society? What does it say to victims that have got a life sentence for the crime in which has been committed against them? And then to have the Home Secretary and the new Justice Secretary in a bit of a joke with the new Defence Secretary. With the Defence Secretary also, you know, laughing about it as if, oh, he just wants to let them all out. He will let some of them out. And that will go down to victims in this country, I think, as one of the biggest, you know, eye-openers about this government.
I predict you that video will not go away. Honestly, because Andy Burnham will say, oh, this is the right-wing press. For all the people in the Labour movement who have criticised, quite rightly at some moments when people have misspoken or said things wrong, that is disgusting. That is beyond disgusting, and it makes a mockery, as you said, absolutely of victims. So, not a great look. Wayne, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Charlie. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. I'm glad all the Labour people was caught on mic having a snigger at us mere mortals while they sit in their ivory towers You see, it just doesn't affect those people. We're the people that are affected, the people on the street, people just like me, and just like the normal people that I live by. We're all affected, nobody else is. Keep up the good work, Jezza. I'm sick to the backside of these morons.
And you know, people like Wayne who's grafting, and like the people that have messaged already, they're being looked down on in effect by that. And that really would, if I was Burnham, that would absolutely enrage me this morning. Wouldn't it you?
Oh, totally, because it's you know, you only get one shot of giving a first impression to the country about the kind of team that you've assembled, about what kind of government you're going to be. And when you're already on the back foot, not being able to justify or not being able to set out how you're going to cost some of the announcements
Hasn't been a great
made.
3 days, has it?
It hasn't.
No.
And people will be. So to Mark's question earlier on, you know, people on the backbenches, people in the Labour Party that, you know, just waved in Andy Burnham, that thought he was the great Messiah.
Waved him in, the Messiah,
patted him on the back, was applauding no end outside number 10, that thought, great, you know, we're going to protect it, we're going to save our jobs, we're going to save our seats under Andy Burnham, we're quids in as MPs. Well, they're going to be looking at these policies, they're going to be looking at these announcements that aren't costed, that aren't funded properly.
Student politics, I call it. I really would. And you know me, I never plan anything. You can tell how dire this programme is. But I do think as I go through, my brain thinks of certain things. And the more I think about it, you look at it and you go, this is a country, mate. It's not Manchester. It's really interesting. Morning H&B. Are you Hinge and I'm Bracket? Who is what in this relationship?
I must confess, even though we've been labelled this for many months now, I think, I've not actually seen the programme.
Can you get a picture of Hinge and Bracket up, please? This was a couple of old dears, you lads, dears, from years and years ago, and they had a television programme. It was actually very funny. I'll let you pick which one. When I lived in Swindon, says Julie in Spain, bus fares were already capped at £2. Just saying, great show as ever. I've moved to Spain. Do I blame her? No. Easy win for Burnham, says Bill, would be to cancel the Chagos deal. It will save money and please Trump in one easy swoop. He's not going to do that, is he?
No.
In 1976, says Sue Jones, we had terrible droughts, and there was a minister for droughts called Dennis Howe. He hired someone to do a rain dance. 3 days later, we had rain. The rain wouldn't stop, and Dennis Howe became minister for flooding. Look it up. That's unbelievable. Is that true? Yes. 76, I was 11. It was the hottest summer. Terrible droughts. There was a minister for droughts called Dennis Howe. He hired someone to do a rain dance. 3 days later, it peed down. The rain wouldn't stop, and Dennis Howe became minister for flooding. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Well, that's delivery. That's a government that's delivering by the sounds of things. Let's get back to the 70s.
Graham, I don't suppose Anis Sanwal will come down from Scotland on a bus for £2, but first class on a train paid for by us. This is the story that the Scottish leader of Labour, the first person to call for Starmer to go, is being rewarded with the peerage so he can be in the government. That doesn't make sense either, does it? Jezza, I'll comply with a hosepipe ban when the data centres we never asked for that use upwards of 1 million gallons of water a day stop doing that, says Dan in Hartlepool.
Well, yeah, and if we had that digital ID scheme that was being sort of created under the last government, that would have taken up even more energy. But, I mean, I'm glad that has been scrapped because, again, I don't think really what that was trying to achieve. It was trying to do lots of things and obviously ended up not doing anything.
Paul in Essex, good morning, gang. If Burnham gets his way replicating number 10 North, will this mean that MPs will get another house funded by the taxpayer?
Well,
I don't know. Michelle in Altrincham. Good morning, boys. Good morning, Jeremy, and the lovely presenter Charlie, whose shows I always make time to watch. I'd just like to comment on Charlie's hair. If you've been watching the World Cup, you will have seen that lots of the footballers have been sporting a similar style. So if it's good enough for footballers, it's certainly good enough for our Charlie. Michelle in Altrincham, who's out of therapy in a couple of months. So that's a lovely message from me. Joking, Michelle. Andy Pandy, pudding and pie, kissed the country, made them all cry, and it'll all end in tears. I fear the worst, says Zarina. Jesus, it's only been 2 days. Peter, Harper was only married. This is absolutely true. PC Andrew Harper was only married for 25 days before he was murdered. He went to investigate the theft of a quad bike, was dragged along country lanes for a mile and died. His young bride left devastated, and Peter goes to Labour finds that funny, do they? They actually didn't even think about it this morning. This could be huge.
Yeah.
This could be absolutely huge. Are you going to sack your Home Secretary and your Defence Secretary for being disrespectful?
Oh, well, he can't, well, I mean, look, you know, had this happened mid-term or during when they've been in post a bit longer, then you never know. But I mean, it's very difficult for him to do that now.
Great show, Jez. Early release. How many people who said hurty words on social media have been released early? If we need space, fine, but surely it should be in order of seriousness of the original crime. Nigel in Margate.
Yeah. Yeah, quite right too. I mean, that's, you know, but that is just a common sense approach. That is a common sense view that many people have in this country because it's the right one, funny enough.
Yeah.
But we will have prisoners that are being released early, people who have committed heinous crimes, rape and sexual abuse, they will be out.
Yeah.
And the government can't do anything about it, or say that they can't do anything about it, when they absolutely can. As to your point earlier on, build more prisons, cut this net zero nonsense.
Get rid of the foreign aid £11 billion budget, and don't give me that, yes, but the British people for a change. Sorry, fact. If this... Brilliant, Sean. If it isn't that we don't have enough water... I mean, the Thames Water hosepipe ban, just so you know my opinion, to repeat it, right, infuriates me. The bosses get millions and millions of pounds of bonuses, which is disgusting. They lose billions of gallons of water because they've got leaky pipes. Yes, I know I've got leaky pipes. I'm 61. Sean says it isn't that we don't have enough water. The problem is we've got 15 million extra bloody people in this country who shouldn't be here using it.
Well, that is a view. That is a view. And it's, you know, we have got more people in this country, so they're all using public services. They'll be using utilities and all the rest of it. But that is no excuse, I don't think, for not having the water supplies in this country.
I agree. I agree. This is brilliant. Sean says the last time I was on a bus was from my home in South Emsall to Hooton Pagnell School in 1976. I've no further plans to travel by bus. Thank you, Graham. Good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Charlie. These little snippets of information that Burnham's leaking out, like cutting the VAT on domestic electric, which backfired big time yesterday, and now capping the bus fare at £2 on most journeys, you know, most in inverted commas. Is he trying to sweeten the public before he announces a snap election, or am I being cynical? Great show, keep up the good work.
I don't think he's trying to sweeten the public. I think it may not for a general election. I think he is trying to sweeten the public, but I think the public are very switched on. Hinge and Bracket is what we're now called, but I'm going to give you a picture online on WhatsApp. This is Hinge and Bracket from the 80s. Have a look. Now, I think you look like the one on the left. The slightly angular jaw. Come on, dear, let's do the programme. I think they've both got pearl necklaces, they've both got big hairdos. One with glasses looks more like me, more studious. You look slightly angular, do you think? What do you think?
I'd go with that.
None of which answers which one's Hinge and which one's Bracket. Nobody's put that on the picture.
Now, of course, if we turned up to the civil service like that, if we were in a government department, you know, we'd have to...
Identifying as Hinge and Bracket.
Absolutely, we'd have to be...
This is also, my friends, a great story. Civil servants face formal sanction if they misgendered trans colleagues. So we've decided that Neha, who runs the show, is going to be she and queen, because she is the queen of the place. That's all I'm getting. Do you see yourself in... I mean, do you see us having a summer season at Bridlington's, a couple old dames, or a Christmas panto? Do you think we could do that?
Oh, I'd love to see that. I think we do.
Oh, no, you
wouldn't.
I would. It's behind you, Charlie. Matron. Yes, honestly, we're very happy to do whatever. It's always fantastic to have you. So we've played the hot mic thing. We've talked about the bus fare slash. We've talked about the poll that puts Labour and Reform level. Just for 1 minute, you've got where do you see the next few days? How do you see Burnham? I mean, is it already in trouble, or are we being unfair?
I think he will regret not taking part in a leadership contest where some of these issues could have been flushed out and where some of the ideas that he obviously has got, that he's announcing, might have been put on the back burner. Because I think what we'll see now is over the next 6 weeks, he thinks he'll be preparing for government. He's got no scrutiny in Parliament. He's avoided scrutiny of the media. He'll be announcing this drip, drip, drip over the summer to court public opinion. But I think by September, when he has to face people like Kemi Badenoch, like Nigel Farage, other political leaders in the House of Commons to say, how is he going to pay for this? I think the wheels might come off, and it could be a very uncomfortable winter.
And I have to say, I mean, we've got the Shadow Chancellor, Conservative Mel Stride, next on the show. The Tories are putting somebody up every day, despite the fact that Parliament is recessed. They're back in their constituencies and they're talking to us. Reform are doing the same. It does concern me that this man thinks he can get away with 6 weeks of announcements, no scrutiny, from our elected representatives, and you could say that will come back and bite his backside. Thank you. And can I just say, Charlie Rowley did the show yesterday afternoon for Ian Collins. Amazing. I don't know if you're doing it again today. Loving working with you, dear boy.
Thank you. You too. Well, I'm learning from the best, so...
yeah, absolutely, and I'll be charging you accordingly. Thank you, Charlie Rowley. We'll see you next week. 0344 499 1000. If you'd like to make a call or leave a voice note, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Whether it's the hot mic moment, the early release of prisoners, the I'm going to cap buses at £2. It's all going on this morning. Or the hosepipe ban. 0344 499 1000. The news at 7 is next on Talk Breakfast.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flag. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals. Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, "Oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that." None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And we keep making this mistake in Britain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends, and welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock. What is it? Wednesday, the 22nd of July. We're live across the UK on the home of Common Sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, you, my dear friend, that's been out all night or is just on your way to work. You that pay all your taxes and get screwed and feel that life's unfair. 0344 499 calls, voice notes to Christian. What are we waking up to? Text as well, of course, 87222. You're waking up to, obviously, new government on Monday. And I want to be positive, and it's not working out very well because immediately he announced yesterday a VAT cap on... no, we're not paying VAT on energy bills. Everybody went, oh, that's 40 quid. He forgot to say that it was on the back of a rise of 13% later in the year. And then one of Starmer's loyal allies who got sacked that morning managed to tweet and say, how are you going to pay for this then, Andy Pandy? No answer. This morning, he's announced single bus fares in England, most, by the way, underline, will be capped at £2 from January 2027. That's going to cost £300 million. Where's the money coming from, Andy? It's not us being cynical, but perhaps the most disgusting thing today is the day that that amazing copper, Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper, who you heard from his widow there in the news, murdered when he went some years ago to investigate the theft of a quad bike. And basically he was dragged for more than a mile along country roads when his ankles got caught in the tow rope of a car. I don't want to even... Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, who were jailed for 13 years in 2020. And guess what, my friends? They've only served 5.5 years. They're being released today. They're being released. This is part of this Labour plan of, let's release people early. No, let's not do that. Let's make people serve their sentence and build more prisons and try and show that we're serious about dealing with people who break the law and commit crimes. Let's stop giving 11 billion quid, right? This is genuinely how I feel, to foreign aid. Let's build prisons and get stronger. But here's what really sticks in the gut, right? Last night at a drinks do, the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and the new Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, two people who are very quick to jump upon anybody else that dares to say or do something they disagree with, were caught in a hot mic moment, laughing with the new Justice Secretary. And it's difficult to hear, but it's like, oh, you want to let them all out, don't you? Have a listen. This is the new government.
You know he's the enemy now, isn't Justice?
No, he's not.
Mahmood and Streeting, sorry, I don't care. I think it's disgusting. I think it's disrespectful to victims. I think it's utterly disrespectful to PC Andrew Harper's wife. I think it absolutely shines a light. And I'm a patriot. I want Andy Burnham to succeed. But it does beg the question, doesn't it? 3 days. A debacle of a VAT announcement, a bus announcement, right, that people are going, where's that money come from? The British public are more switched on, Andy, than you are giving them credit for. And on top of that, here's my other gripe this morning, Thames Water. You know that company that's billions in debt that we've got to help out? The ones that give all the shareholders, or the big bosses, not the shareholders, millions of pounds worth of bonuses. You know that company that loses millions of gallons every day because their pipes are leaking? They've announced a hosepipe ban where they can shove it with a... Morning, Laura. Morning, Laura. Morning, Laura.
Morning, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. My hosepipe this morning has told me that it's now identifying as a watering can. So if they bring in a hosepipe ban around here, we'll be fine. Have a great show.
I love it. This is also a story this morning. Civil servants face formal sanction if they misgender trans colleagues. New Whitehall guidance outlines disciplinary action for those who deliberately refuse to refer to co-workers by their preferred name or gender. Laura thinks she's going to change her hosepipe to make it identify as a watering can, so that says something else as well to Thames Water. On a serious note, the Tory party, quite rightly, I thought, raised a question a week or so ago in the House saying this new Prime Minister is not going to be under any scrutiny or be challenged by anybody in the House of Commons because MPs are on recess. Surely he should have had an extra day. No, not ahead. You haven't heard or seen from Andy Burnham, not in terms of interviewing or doing anything like that. The Tory party, to their credit, though, are in recess but are putting up somebody every day. And we are delighted to say a very good, I hope I'm right, Mel Stride, he and him. Is that right? I'm a bit confused.
It is indeed me himself, Jeremy. Good morning.
Me, him, himself and I. Well done, Mel. Brilliant. There's so much I want to talk about. Some people don't like how direct we are on this station, but I appreciate your time. I really am seething about this disgusting hot mic incident last night. Yes, of course, today is emotional for the widow and the family of PC Andrew Harper, whose two killers have been allowed out after 6 years, which I think is fundamentally wrong, and many people would agree with me. But on day 3, or not day 2, the evening of day 2 of a government, it is an appalling look that Streeting and Mahmood were laughing about the early release of prisoners, isn't it?
Well, I think those family and friends of PC Harper and others who have people who now may be being released early as a consequence of the decisions taken by this government will be deeply, deeply disappointed, Jeremy. Look, this whole approach is completely wrong. You know, if you've got serious offenders like rapists, people that have killed people, people that groom children and so on being let out halfway through their sentence, and some who've committed lesser offences a third of the way through their sentence, you can understand why people are really, really angry and very, very disappointed about this situation. There is a different way, which is we have 10,000 foreign nationals in our prisons. We should be removing them and sending them back to their countries of origin and making the space to make sure that those that commit these heinous crimes are locked up and serve an appropriate sentence.
There's some breaking news, which is interesting, as you're the Shadow Chancellor. I'm sure you've got it. Inflation fell to 2.6% in June from 2.8. Not massive, but we should acknowledge that that is a drop, Mel. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, it is a drop, and of course any drop in inflation is welcome, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact, Jeremy, that we've had inflation well above target. The target is 2% ever since this government came to office. They inherited inflation bang on target at 2% on the day of the last general election, and a lot of that is because of the policies that this government has been taking. Rachel Reeves, if you remember, put taxes up on businesses. A lot of that got passed on by way of higher prices. She borrowed massive amounts of money, spent a lot of money, which also stoked inflation. And my fear now with Andy Burnham is that he's going to be doing that, but even more of it. This is a socialist government that harks back to the apparent glory days of the 1970s.
Yeah, I was around. They weren't glory days. They weren't glory days.
They were not glory days. We were skint, we were poor. We ended up having to go to the IMF with a begging bowl to try and get out of our financial problems, and a lot of people got hurt during the 1970s as a consequence of the mismanagement of the economy. And there are a lot of similarities, actually, between what Andy Burnham is saying now and what happened back then.
Couldn't agree more. Yesterday. So, listen, like you don't have to agree with somebody politically, but I'm a patriot. I'm fed up of where our country is, and I want it to be better, both domestically and on the international stage. We started yesterday, the show, and within 15 minutes, Andy had announced this VAT cut on energy bills, and we quickly, and actually I have to say you made a really good point. People have woken up politically, the general public, and we had messages straight away saying, well, if the average bill's 800 quid, which has gone up anyway, 5%, which is the VAT on domestic energy bills, is 40 quid. Not to be sniffed at, but it's going up by 13%, so actually it's a con. Today, Andy Burnham, in this. He sort of does it at 6:15. It's becoming Trump-esque. Most single bus fares in England, Mel, will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. That's what he's announced this morning. Straight away, everybody's texting and going, well, that's £300 million, Andy Burnham. Where the hell is the money coming from, man?
That's exactly right. That is the critical question to ask. It's 454 million pounds, actually, Jeremy, I think you'll find. And when it comes to the question, where's the money coming from, they have this sort of rather vague notion that they're going to make some savings in the energy department, but they cannot put their finger on where they are going to find the money. Yesterday's announcement, which was about, as you say, getting VAT off electricity bills for a period, once again they said that it was the money that would be saved through scrapping digital ID cards. Well, there was no money set aside for for bringing in digital ID cards, so therefore there cannot be an identifiable saving. And that's not just me saying it, it's what the Office for Budget Responsibility said in their report back in November of last year. And getting back to the sort of macro arguments I was just putting about the 1970s and all this spending and taxing and borrowing and so on, critical now to the economic future of our country is a government that's going to be able to explain how it's going to live within its means, how it's going to control spending, and certainly not keep on embarking on all these spending sprees where they can't actually explain where the money is coming from.
You know, I say this a lot when I have you on and other people from the Tory government. I was very cynical about how long it took Kemi to appear to be on the front foot. But actually the approach of we're going to sit and we're going to cost it, Mel, and we're going to make sure we know where we're at, stands firm. Yeah. On that point, Andy Burnham is already stirring up amongst our audience. It's an interesting thing. We talked about, you know, he had no contest where people could challenge what he thought. You guys tried to get him to come back to Parliament, extend that. He said no. And I'm not even interested in politics. I want to know, as a man who's been around and has done what you've done, am I being wrong, or is this unravelling pretty bloody quickly? Because he seems to be... There's 3 mistakes in 48 hours.
It really feels like it, and it all comes back, if you think about it, to what was the undoing of Starmer and Reeves, was that they went into government without a clear, thought-through plan. And we're seeing evidence of that. And I think in terms of bucking scrutiny, you're right, we had a motion last week in Parliament to bring Andy Burnham to the dispatch box to explain exactly what his plans were. The government actually changed the whole day's business. They wouldn't even allow us to debate that motion. The House of Lords tried yesterday a similar approach and were voted down by the Labour Party in the House of Lords. This is a man who doesn't have a plan, and that's why things are unravelling. And what he hopes is he can get away with this all the way through the summer until the autumn. But of course, this is not good for the country, because uncertainty, apart from anything else, is very bad for economies. And if you keep having out on the media discussions about, well, they haven't thought it through, they haven't got a proper plan in place, that's something that the markets, who we rely on to lend us money, get very twitchy about.
And just one final question. Several with the cabinet picks. I saw your tweet to John Healey, which was excellent. You'll be shadowing him. But Angela Rayner and others being urged to return the 17 grand exit payment after getting their old jobs back. Where's the Tory party stance on that, Mel?
Well, I think it is extraordinary in a way that you think that she went into a job and has now gone back to the same job, and she went out of the job initially under a very dark cloud over her personal tax affairs. Look, these are matters for her, but I think the public will come to their own conclusions.
And we really appreciate. Just one final thing. Ed Miliband, as the Foreign Secretary, seemed to have stirred up the White House. We should go back to 2015 when he was the leader of the Labour Party in opposition and opposed strikes on Syria, which many say was the beginning of showing Putin that he could take charge across the world. What's your view on that appointment, my friend?
Well, I think that decision over Syria, which, as you say, Ed Miliband was then the leader of the opposition and pulled the rug on David Cameron on that vote was a very serious moment actually for our country when it came to our relations with America, but also for world peace and where we are in that part of the world and what followed as a consequence. So these are matters of judgment, and let's see how Ed Miliband gets on, but certainly things like that you point to are examples of a complete lack of judgment.
Mel, always a pleasure, mate. I know how hard you're all working and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much indeed. Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor. He and him, we're allowed to say that, live from Westminster. Excellent, good man. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Jez, can you read Shabana's tweet about last night? You'll see she never actually says sorry. It's not an apology, but she tries to explain away the situation. We'll have a look at that. Linda. Oh, have I got it already? Yes. I think everyone can see. Oh, this is from Shabana Mahmood explaining that hot mic moment, which I just want to reply about. So, Shabana Mahmood, Wes Streeting at a drinks thing with the new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, and Chancellor, she and he, Wes Streeting and Shabana, laughing. And you hear this voice going, he wants to let them all out. This is the day that Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper's killers are released. His wife, his family, every other victim will be appalled. She said, I think everyone can see that there was no ill intent behind this ribbing of the new Lord Chancellor, a role I once filled and which comes with immense challenges thanks to the vandalism inflicted on our justice system by the last Conservative government. But I appreciate this is an extremely serious issue and do not want anyone to make this moment of levity for a anyone to mistake this moment of levity for a lack of serious intent. You said he wants to let them all out, love. You laughed. You threw your head back. This is... Do you know what? We'll be accused of making a mountain out of a molehill. I think you have to question people's judgment when they're talking about people like that. Morning, Jez. That clip showed Labour as smug idiots who have no regard for the victims of crime. They pretend they are caring, but their policies show contempt for law-abiding working people. They disgust me, says Linda in Deal. Good morning to... who is it? I don't know. Oh, yes. Sorry. Sam Evans in Buckton East Riding. Jez and Charlie, just a thought. Is Andy Burnham going to set up a house of multiple occupancy in Manchester for his number 10 North? Let's hope it's in Crackadilly so they can get a flavour of what's really going on in our country. Yeah, they could spice it up. That was a joke. Charles, who's in Thailand, currently 35 degrees. Don't like it much. The first week Starmer was in, he increased bus fares from £2 to £3. And he did this and said on TV there will still be cheap fares. Burnham is not lowering fares. He's merely removing Starmer's increase. Ian's on the Mersey. He's on Mersey. Has Burnham ever worked outside of politics? Is he a career politician? If so, how can he ever understand how us alarm clock Brits are trying to get by completely? Jay in Brighton says... weirdly, Hinge and Bracket were the very start of woke trans lefties. So you and Charlie have a lot to answer for. Thank you. 0344 499 1000. Morning, David in Gloucester.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are we all?
Not too bad for a balding 60-year-old has-been. How are you?
I'm very well. My birthday yesterday, so I'm now nearly catching up with you.
How old are you, boy? How old?
I was 55 yesterday.
Sound older than that, don't you, to be fair? I'm joking. What's happening? What are you telling me?
Well, with that Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting clip, I think it just about sums them up completely, because that is the truth. That is what they really, really think of the country. They are laughing at the country because letting out killers, letting out hoodlums and everything else, they don't care, because they have got 24-hour security round the clock. The rest of us can all carry on our homes. Look at what happened to poor Anne Widdecombe. That was, you know, my wife was in absolute bits. We met the lady 7 weeks ago now, and she was an absolute sweetie and lovely, and my wife was in bits over that, what we heard yesterday.
I have to say, and I'll be honest, that this hot mic moment, Shabana Mahmood's batted that away. I think it does, though. And this, by the way, it could have happened to a Tory MP or it could have happened to other parties, right? But it does smack of, as you said, a sort of arrogance and a sort of lack of contrition. And at a time when this country is where it's at, and the views of the majority of the silent majority about how we are not just disrespected by politicians is the wrong way, but just that no sort of view is given to our feelings. I think this is an appalling look, and I appreciate your call, pal. Thank you, and my regards to your wife as well. David in Gloucester, 0344 499 1000. Jez, didn't the MP's behaviour, what? And their own apologies prove that they broke the Nolan principles and therefore the ministerial code. Holders of public office must act and take decisions impartially, fairly and on merit, using the best evidence and without discrimination and bias. Not laugh about a fact they're letting criminals out early. Joe in Norfolk, though, is responding to the other story of the day, which is Thames Water. They've got some front, Thames Water, haven't they? They give all their bosses millions of pounds worth of bonuses, right? They raise everybody's bills. Their service is, at best, not great. They lose millions and millions of gallons of water every day because their pipes are leaking. And Thames Water have instigated a hosepipe ban for 10 million homes. Jezza, we're a bloody island surrounded by water. If any government had set up desalination plants around the coast by now, we would have endless water and could have used wind and sun power to help power them. Lanzarote managed it. We never planned for the future. How can a bloody island be short of water, says Joe in Norfolk. Honestly, completely agree. This has got you going. Zarina, with regard to the water companies, why have they never been forced to repair and modernise the infrastructure? Good. The law is an ass. It was inevitable from the get-go that these companies would return to public ownership. The cost is going to be eye-watering. Brilliant. 7:22. Is Andy a new one? Morning, Andy.
Jezza, 2 days in. 2 days in, and the Home Secretary is joking about releasing criminals early. My God, I like a joke, but this is just disgusting. Also, I mean, Burnham's going to spend the whole summer gaslighting us with these stupid little scraps off the floor. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're taking 2p bus fare, 10p bus fare, wherever it is. Do it all summer without any scrutiny, without any questions. Dope in every postcode, corridor in every heart. Have a good show.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of its desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:25. You were told breakfast, the home of common sense, and of course the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. We have that hot mic moment. People are getting very angry about Shabana Mahmood and of course about West Street in court last night, laughing about the early release of prisoners on the day. The PC Andrew Harper, that poor copper whose life was ended by two thugs who have just been released, or will be today, 6 years into a 13-year sentence for murdering somebody. And the politicians there last night, if you can't see it on YouTube, Shabana Mahmood and West Streeting laughing. They've both released statements this morning. West Streeting sort of apologises. She says don't overreact. Sean, what do you make of it?
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. So, in the UK today, we're releasing cop killers and paedophiles and rapists early so we can lock up foreign rapists and paedophiles and murderers. Why don't we just deport the foreign rapists and paedophiles and murderers and continue to keep our paedophiles and murderers and cop killers in jail? Or is that just too easy? Anyway, Jeremy, got to shoot. Got to go and figure out how I'm going to spend my 86 pence a week. Reduction in my energy bills. Might be able to get myself a Mars bar with it. Definitely not a double though. It costs more than that for a double. Great show, mate.
Do you know what I love about this show is when people start saying things. So 86p is what he's going to save on the VAT on his energy bill after Andy Burnham's announcement yesterday, but he's not because it's going up 13%. A Mars bar, right? This is how old I am. How much was a Mars bar when you first remembered Mars bars? Christian, how much? 25p. Mark? 7p, I remember, a Mars bar. 7p, and we had to walk up bloody hill in morning. Morning, Jez. Imagine this. Can you imagine the first meeting between our Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, and Pete Hesketh? I bet Pete will have a laugh. The first thing Pete will have to teach him is which way to hold a gun. We are more than a joke. Cheers, JK. John in Poole. Morning, Charlie. I love you, and Jezza, yeah. Just a quick thought over coffee. Has Downing Street quietly rebranded itself as a rehabilitation centre for tax dodgers and convicts? Interesting. Will Louise Hay get a visa to go to the USA on government duty, or will her conviction bar her, says Mick in Wallington. This is the news that Louise Hay, who you know had to resign from Starmer's government, because she's got a conviction for fraud. She lied about a mobile phone being stolen. She says, I should have told Starmer, I didn't. He sacked her. She's been on the back benches. She's been the strength behind Andy Burnham, and he has rewarded her with the Chancellor of Duchy of Lancaster job and First Secretary of State, which means she's the de facto deputy, a convicted fraudster. Last night, another one. She had to be stripped of her role as the Oversight of Fraud Office. She can't do that. She can't be in charge of the Oversight of Fraud Office because she's been found guilty of fraud. So this is it. Capped buses do not work, says Robert. Subsidy means less buses as bus operators cannot afford to run buses at a loss. A subsidy from government does not cover cost, Patrick in Kent. Everybody asking the same thing this morning. Andy, the buses. Listen, 300 million quid. Actually, Sir Mel Stride said 454 million quid. Where's the money coming from, Andy? Let's get a man who always speaks sense. Reform's only UK London Assembly member, Alex Wilson. Welcome to breakfast. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be with you again.
Andy Burnham. Day one, I'm cutting VAT on energy bills. Oh, Christ. And I'm paying for it with the money I'm saving from digital IDs. Darren Jones, straight away. No, you're not. Digital IDs cost nothing. You're lying. Explain how you're doing it. Today, single bus fares, most in England, capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. Lovely. £454 million, Sir Mel Stride says. Where's the money coming from, Andy? It's not been a great start, Alex, has it, to be fair?
No, it's not. It shows, I think, why Andy Burnham spent so much time trying to hide from scrutiny and questions from the media, and he hasn't come before Parliament. He wanted to become Prime Minister. He wanted to do things differently. He wanted to change the way that the country is governed. But at no point has he actually set out a clear, detailed plan. He hasn't faced scrutiny. He refused to take questions from the press when he launched his campaign. And he won't call a general election to let people have their say on it. It's crazy, and he's not going to appear before Parliament until the autumn now. So we've got all this kind of talk in the press and the media, but nothing actually really holding him to account and putting out those plans in great detail when we've got a vacuum really in the heart of government. Nobody knows what's going on, and most importantly, nobody knows how any of this is going to get paid for. We already have a huge difficulties funding everything that the government is doing. And he just wants to splurge more on all these things, bus fares, the energy thing. Interesting idea. We, as a party, were very keen to cut VAT on all energy bills, not just electricity, and we would fund it by scrapping the net zero, the green levies, the green taxes, and so on associated with that. This is just a gimmick, but even that he can't actually fund because the digital ID itself was not properly funded in the budget. So it's chaos already. We thought this was going to be better than Starmer. It's clearly going to be worse.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because a bit like Starmer, and OK, we're only 2 days in, and people will say, come on, this is just the right-wing media. The Mail are saying who's going to pay for the Andy largesse. Lots of people attacking him. But you'd think, wouldn't you, a bit like Starmer, who had all that time to prepare, that if you've been plotting, which this man patently has been, that he would have had... I mean, it's all fine what you see there arriving, but it's about... I think politically we're in a very different position than we've ever been, Alex, and I don't know whether you'd agree with this, but in London and across the country. I think the audience, and I can't ever put this any other... I think they're woken up, mate, and I just don't think they take bluff and bluster anymore, and I think they do want answers, and I think they've been so fed lines that aren't true, or they've been promised things that haven't happened, that they're cynical. I'd say realistic, but I think, I mean, listen to this. Jez, Andy Burnham has managed to do in 48 hours what most governments take months to achieve. Promise a tax cut, the raising of the personal tax allowance, then quietly row back. That's not bold leadership. That's policy by headline, followed by retreat by spreadsheet. If your tax plan collapses before it reaches Cabinet, it wasn't a plan. The MP for Makerfield already breaking his own election manifesto, Alex.
Yeah, well, Starmer had a good solid 2 years to prepare for government. It was obvious what the outcome of the 24 election was going to be, and yet he didn't spend the time actually coming up with a clear, deliverable plan, and it showed in what a shambolic government he led. And yet it looks like Burnham's following the same path. He's clearly been scheming and plotting behind the scenes, and Lou doing so on his behalf for a great many months. And yet again, day one, coming to power, it's all words, it's all vibes, it's all fluffy language, but actually that fundamental question of what are you going to do, how are you going to pay for it, because everything has a cost, everything has a price, everything needs to be paid for, and if you haven't worked out how you're going to do that, you can't deliver. And I think it sends a really kind of strong warning to anybody in politics and any party that wants to come and take over into the government, and I include ourselves in that. You have to do the detail in advance. You have to work out what you're doing. That's why having people like Danny Kruger and James Orr on board is really, really important for reform, working on that plan for government should we be fortunate enough to win the next general election. Because if we can't have a system in which a party or a new administration comes in and can crack straight on with delivery, then people will lose faith in politics completely. And that is really not a good place that we want to be in.
Can I ask you your response? I mean, despite, and let's be honest, it has not been an impressive start. And let's be further honest and say categorically, it does for many people sort of the alarms have started to sound. But a poll out today, we do this show as best as we can, finds that Labour have drawn level with your party Reform. Labour and Reform both on 28%, Tories on 18%, they're not moving the dial. The Greens and Liberal Democrats dropping still further behind. One wonders whether the green bubble has burst. Does it frighten you in Reform that a man who... it hasn't been particularly impressive. This was, I mean, to be fair, this poll was after Starmer had been deposed. What does that say? Does that say, is the Burnham bounce real, or is that just politics? What's the Reform response to this?
Well, I'm not surprised there's been a little bit of an uplift in Labour's scores, having ditched Starmer. I mean, that was the whole point why they ditched Starmer and changed the leader and brought in Burnham, was to try and get a bit of a bounce. But interestingly, they haven't managed to pull ahead. Even in this poll, which I think is their best poll for quite some time, they're still only level with us. I think once Burnham has time in government, 6 months, 9 months down the line, I'm pretty sure his ratings will be every bit as poor as Starmer's were because of those things that we've been talking about. The fact that he doesn't really have a clear plan, doesn't have an idea of how to pay for it. It's all words, it's all vibes. There's no substance behind it. It's gimmicks. It's number 10 in the north. I mean, what is that all about? I think he's going to be in trouble very, very soon. But look, polls go up, polls go down. What matters is that the opposition parties, including ourselves, are there working hard, holding him to account, holding the government to account, and ready to fight that election whenever it comes. If it comes early, we'll be ready. If it comes later, we'll be even more ready. But,
Alex Wilson, you're a legend, but you'll know with this show there are a couple of questions. They can be light-hearted because God knows we live in a serious world. We appreciate Reform UK's only London Assembly member. What's your first memory of the price of a Mars bar? This is brilliant. Pam says, I'm 81. I remember when it was 4p in old money. I'm 61. I remember 7p. What was the price of a Mars bar when you were a kid?
Oh, probably about 30p, I would have thought. But what I do remember, I remember Chomp being 10p. I used to eat those quite a lot. Never good.
Chomp! Good man. Alex Wilson from Reform, thank you very much indeed. Jez, 12p for a Mars and 5p for a Milky Way. The Milky Bars are on me. Brilliant. Morning, Debs.
Morning, Jez. I can't remember the Mars bars at 7p, but I can remember Milky Way, 2p. Dandy and Beano, 2p, and I can remember going to the chip shop for a portion of chips and scratchings for 10p. And now I'm sitting there thinking how old I am. I'm 62.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome along, 22 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK on the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brits. So much opinion this morning on so many stories. Of course, the big story, the sad... I mean, PC Andrew Harper was just a copper doing his job when he was callously killed back in 20... I'm going to say, I think, disrespect, but I think they were jailed in 2020, so this was possibly 2019. The two thugs that did it today will be released early under the government scheme of releasing prisoners early to free up prison space. Anybody with a brain cell would say either deport the thousands of foreign prisoners in our prisons to open up space, or alternatively, unless you really think I'm completely mad, why don't we not give £11 billion, which has just been doubled, of foreign aid to countries and concentrate on our own problems and build some more prisons and give a bit more money to defence? Or am I old-fashioned? 0344 499 1000. On top of that, Andy Burnham, day 2, another announcement. Buses capped prices at £2 from January. Hurrah! Buses, for me, not great. Usually drunk people who don't pay, someone playing loud music, probably a bit smelly. But on a serious note, it's an impressive mention for many people who would need that. However, £454 million, Sir Mel Strides just told us. Where's the money coming from, Andy? Yesterday's debacle of the VAT has got people questioning how you're going to pay for all this largesse. That's the most important thing. Let's say a very good morning. Actually, let's not. Before we say good morning to Nigel Evans, there's also a Thames Water hosepipe ban, which is causing great consternation. Morning, Sean.
Hey, Jezza. Sean of Cheshire again. Just like to say, just been listening to that about the water. A little while back, I worked for one of the London area water companies, and the message you just read out is absolutely right. The water's disappearing because of all the extra people. They absolutely know that. There's more to it than that. I'll tell you one day. But yes, they know. That's why it's not that we haven't built enough reservoirs. Is we haven't taken account for the extra 10 to 15 million people that are undeclared. That's where the water's going.
And most people, I wouldn't disagree with you, most people also, when it comes to the hosepipe ban, because this completely infuriates me. I'm really sorry, Christian's right. He said it last night, I went, the hosepipe ban, but it's completely and utterly fueling me this morning. The bosses get millions of pounds worth of bonuses. The infrastructure's that crap that they lose, I mean, thousands and thousands of millions of gallons every single day. People's bills go through the roof. And what's their response? Hosepipe ban. We're an island, for Christ's sake, surrounded by water. A very good morning to a man who will calm me down. He's a legend, the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. Nigel Evans, good morning, dear.
Calm down, Jeremy, calm down.
I don't want to calm down. I'm angry, Nigel. I need you to give therapy. The hosepipe ban, man. Thames Water, it's a disgrace.
Yeah, it's raining most of the time. I used to, as you know, represent the Ribble Valley. We used to call it the Dribble Valley because it was raining so much. And yet, all of a sudden, you get a few days without rain and the infrastructure can't cope. Yeah, it is bonkers. As I say, it's raining more than it's not. And yet, as you say, we're very well paid executives for water companies. And their response to the whole thing is stop using water. No, we're the customers.
Is it a criticism, on a serious note, Thames Water's situation of privatisation? What do you make of Andy Burnham wanting to bring back the water company, amongst other organisations, into public ownership, Nige?
If the government running anything is the response to the question, you're asking the wrong question.
Wow. That's a bit too deep for me. What have you been on this morning? Have you had 4 Weetabix or something?
Three shredded wheat.
Yeah, 3. My friend, I'd just like a view. I saw your great stuff online. It's interesting. We started yesterday, Monday morning, and I genuinely am a patriot, so I want my country to work. And I think you'd share that sentiment. We had 2 years of Starmer. He went. Andy Burnham succeeded him on Monday. Start the show yesterday morning, straight away, 6:15. Let's give an announcement. The announcement is no VAT in future from October or whenever it was, I think, on VAT, domestic VAT, two bills. We worked out, of course, that it's 5% VAT, so the bill, 800, was £40, but I'm not going to sniff at 40 quid. But then, of course, he forgets to mention that 13% rise is happening in October, which negates it. This morning we wake up and we discover the most single bus fares in England, Nigel, will be capped at £2 from January 2027. And Simel Stride nailed it just now. £454 billion. And it begs the question, front of the Mail and every paper, who's going to pay for this, Andy? The British public, the silent majority, are no longer... They're switched on because of unfairness, aren't they, Nigel?
Yeah. Let's nail the first thing, too, about the electricity reduction, 5%, as you say, VAT now being abolished on domestic electricity. And this is something that Andy Burnham would not have been able to have done had we still been in the European Union. It's a Brexit bonus. He's now able to get rid of VAT simply because we're out of the European Union, right? So that's a big tick for this very big pro-European Prime Minister that we now have in number 10. Now, most people say that the Prime Minister does not have a plan. They're wrong. Andy Burnham has half a plan. What we know now is that he is spending a ton of money on this VAT abolition on domestic electricity. He now wants to cap the bus fares at £2. He wants to increase defence expenditure. He is still dithering about whether he wants to increase the thresholds on income tax as well. His largesse has got no limits whatsoever, but there is a problem because there's another side to the equation which he's not answering. Jeremy, I've got a huge list of things that I would love to buy, headed by a Bentley, of course, a soft top. But the reality is I wouldn't be able to do so because my bank manager would intervene before I got anywhere near the Bentley garage. Burnham's going to discover the same problems, quite frankly, that if you carry on spending money in the way that you are without correcting the other side of the equation, then you're going to have real problems. I mean, the electricity thing, he said, was going to be funded by scrapping the ID card scheme.
Didn't cost anything, according to Darren Jones.
Darren Jones said it's not funded anyway. So where is that money going to come from? And then this other thing today in relationship to the bus fares is going to be paid by scrapping, they say, some international climate change money. But then I've heard Heidi Alexander on the radio this morning saying, well, they're not scrapping it as such. They're turning it from grants into loans. And so that when they start giving this money to countries around the world, which quite frankly are on their backside as much as we are, then we're expecting them to pay that money back.
I see. You managed to deal with this for years. I would neither have the patience nor the because it would just make me angry. You know, on the day we're releasing prisoners, right? Because we're overcrowded, we've got prisons full of foreign prisoners. On the day that he announces bus fares will be capped at £2, and the day before VAT, none of this stuff is tangible. What we need is somebody somewhere in whatever political stratosphere to say, right, the country, as you just said, is on its arse, right? And for the first time in our history, we are going to have to put the British people first. So I'm going to tell you about a series of things that might not be palatable to the left, but are absolutely essential if we're going to survive this. I'm not going to pay £11 billion in foreign aid. I'm not doubling it like Starmer did before he left. I'm sorry. I'm sure countries, you just said it, have problems, but so do we. I'm going to build more prisons. I'm going to make sure that people stick to their sentences rather than get let out early. I'm going to send foreign criminals home. I'm going to be honest with people. I'm going to tell them what we can afford and what we can't afford. And yet, Nigel, whatever the political party, it doesn't dawn on all politicians that the British public have woken up and they're aware of what's going on. They really are.
Yeah, well, Starmer hid behind the word change. What we didn't appreciate was it was going to be changed for the worse.
Yeah.
And Burnham's doing exactly the same. He's the Messiah without the mandate. He has not stood the test of a general election whatsoever. He wasn't even in Parliament until a couple of months ago. And so the reality is that he's coming forward with all these half-baked ideas when you quite rightly say that they're forget change, let's go for common sense.
Yeah.
This thing about the prisons being full, well, let's work out how many foreign prisoners are in there.
About 10,000, isn't it, Nige? 10,000?
Well, absolutely. And then if you want to really create extra spaces to ensure that the killers of PC Andrew Harper remain behind bars for 13 years, which is what they should do, then you create the spaces by doing deals with countries throughout the world to say, we are going to release these prisoners from wherever they come from, whichever country. We want them now to be housed in your prisons, and by the way, at the end of their sentence, they're staying there.
To me, it's just, I don't know. And just, you know, at a time when I think politicians need to be serious, they need to appreciate that the country and I think the electorate are far more invested because, as I said, they feel second-class citizens in their own country. You know, we're talking bus fares, we're talking VAT. I suspect, and you know more about, if you knocked on the door of most houses in the Ribble Valley, they would talk about immigration, the welfare benefits budget, net zero, the lack of a proper judicial inquiry into the dreadful rape gangs, and the fact that we need more policemen and women on the streets, and our justice system needs to toughen up. But all we've had so far is bus fares and a VAT cut that's a con. It's not switched on enough to me.
Yeah, no, and the majority of people in the Ribble Valley would say, what is a bus? Yeah. Because there are no buses running around a lot of these small rural areas. And another area which you haven't touched on was, of course, when they said they wouldn't put up national insurance under Starmer, and then they put up employers' national insurance, which has hit the hospitality trade absolutely madly. I've got a meeting this afternoon with a number of pub owners and brewers where we will be talking about this very issue. And if you want the pubs to remain, then you've got to ensure that we've got policies that are going to support them, not kill them. And that's part of the problem. Let's see what John Healey can now do. But I think it's going to dawn on them eventually, Jeremy, that you have to actually pay the bills at some stage. Yeah. We've got Wes Streeting in now as the new Defence Secretary. It does beg the question, by the way, that if Rachel Reeves was offered that job, why she didn't think it was important enough for her to accept being Secretary of State for Defence. Most people would lose an arm to ensure that
I'm not altogether convinced she was offered anything. I could be wrong. I just want to bring up Wes Streeting quickly, if I can. Wes Streeting, the man who first told Starmer to go, was called into Downing Street late last night and was offered the other night the job of Secretary of State for Defence. And yeah, and I don't want to simplify this, but last night, you've heard about the hot mic moment. Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting had a do with some other cabinet ministers, laughing and joking with Alex Norris, the new Justice Secretary, where Wes Streeting and Shabana Mahmood, somebody said, "Oh, he wants to let them all out." Laugh, laugh, laugh. This is on the cusp of Andrew Harper's murderers being released, and that has gone down in the most appalling way this morning. I mean, if I was Burnham, I'd be livid. They've both apologised. Just a brief view of that by you, my friend. Bad look, right?
Oh, it's appalling. Quite frankly, yes. Wes Streeting could be the cheeky chappy of the cabinet if that's what he wants to be, but the reality is that the mother of Andrew Harper is quoted in the Telegraph today as being absolutely appalled. She's serving a life sentence because of the loss of her son. And yet you've got cabinet ministers making light of the early release scheme. It is absolutely appalling. I mean, there's some weird decisions as far as the cabinet is concerned. Wes Streeting, as I say, being one of them. He knows absolutely nothing about defence. And then you've got, of course, the great Ed Miliband, and that's another story that's broken today. The White House did caution against putting this climate change zealot in as Foreign Secretary. You've just got to look at some of the quotes that this man has said about Donald Trump in the past, Jeremy. And this is the guy that will be getting on a plane, which is another thing, right? This is a guy that was telling the rest of us not to fly. And because of his job, he will now be flying and using more carbon than almost anybody else in the United Kingdom. But one of his first jobs, no doubt, will be to go to the United States of America, go and stand and gurn next door to Donald Trump, the president. The president will know exactly what's been said about him in the past. He's not stupid. He will be well briefed.
Evans, you are on fire today.
Embarrassment.
Yeah, you are on fire. I couldn't put it better myself. Good luck in the meeting this afternoon. I just wanted to make you feel better about your life. We are friends. Can we get him back on screen? I'd like to see his face when I say this. If you want to experience the soft-top Bentley, just come round to mine for Sunday lunch. It's fine. You can have a little drive. Nigel Evans, look, shaking his head. Misery. He's miserable about that. Got to deal with it, Evan. Morning, Johnny. How are you, son?
Morning, Jezza. It's Johnny in the van. Looks like the new Messiah's mask started to slip already, doesn't it? £300 million to pay for subsidised £2 bus fares. Like we've got £300 million knocking about, haven't we? How about building some more prisons instead with that sort of money? Maybe these clowns that killed that poor PC Harper could serve a bit more than 5 years if we'd had more prisons. Anyway, great show as ever, mate. Keep it up.
Let's just say, before we go to the news, I just want to touch this story about Thames Water. This infuriates me as well. A hosepipe ban announced for 10 million customers, despite forecasts for rain this weekend. This is Thames Water, billions in debt. Their bosses get billions of pounds worth of rises. The customers' bills go up. They waste loads of water every day. Delighted to have Sophie Conquest, head of water campaigns at We Own It. Sophie, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
This infuriates me probably as much as you. Who do these people think they are? They pay their fat cat bosses, their bills go up, they're completely not responsible for their infrastructure. Now I'm not allowed to water my bleeding lawn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we agree a lot on this one. I think what we're seeing here is water companies heaping their failures onto households, because under privatisation, water companies are incentivised to take our money as bill payers and put it into the pockets of shareholders in the form of profit instead of using it to invest in water infrastructure. And that means that down the line, what we have now, after decades of privatisation, we have leaky pipes, we have a lack of capacity to treat water. Something that's really interesting about this story is Thames Water's reservoirs are actually fairly full. They just can't treat the water to get it out to people because they don't have the infrastructure. So what's happening is we're paying eye-watering bills. The average Thames Water bill now is about £658 a year. And we have restricted access to water. And there's some research recently that's shown, so we lose water companies lose, not us, water companies lose about 3 billion litres of water daily through leaky pipes. And it's been estimated that that is 5 times what a nationwide hosepipe ban would save.
I don't want to actually get too political because, I mean, these people are trying to kill my grass, which is enough to wind the hell out of me. It's the way I feel about life. But on a serious note, are we supposed... I mean, is this proof that privatisation doesn't work?
I think it's absolutely proof. I think we've had more proof than we need that privatisation doesn't work. Our water system is crumbling before our very eyes. And I was, thinking about this. There's a hosepipe ban now. If we look at kind of the inability to access water during this spate of heat waves we've had recently, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a real danger. It's a danger to public health. We've recently found out that the National Risk Register has put losing access to drinking water as one of the biggest threats to this country alongside a pandemic. This isn't a matter of inconvenience, this is a real emergency, and it's an emergency that is created by privatisation. What we need is public ownership of our water sector in order to make sure that people, households, the environment and workers are prioritised under our water system instead of faraway shareholders and US hedge funds.
I agree with that, but there is also, many people would say the following, you might disagree, but we have to look at all sides. Are we suffering because there's more people in this country, far greater populations? We talk about creaking infrastructure. Is water... I mean, we've had 10.5 million increase in population in the last 25 years. That's going to have an impact, isn't it?
I think the numbers speak for themselves, Jeremy. We've had, since privatisation in 1989, we've had over £85 billion of our money as bill payers taken out of our water system. That's £85 billion of money that should have been being invested in infrastructure to make sure that that infrastructure is fit for purpose. We've got a real opportunity at the moment as Andy Burnham begins his premiership. We've seen that Thames Water is on the brink of special administration. That's a form of temporary public ownership. Thames Water is in about £20 billion worth of debt. It's failing its obligations to people and the environment. It's filling our rivers and seas with sewage. It's not delivering water that it should do. It should be in special administration, and that gives us an opportunity to bring it into permanent public ownership. And from there, we can set a precedent and bring the whole of our privatised water sector.
But you know that Burnham, you know that we don't need to get political, but Burnham's going to have to explain to the British public how much this is going to cost, because he's already slightly on the back foot. I don't want you to, because I love having you on, and we might have different views on certain things, but I want to ask you a question that's very important. How am I going to water my garden or my plants to save them from dying? That's what I want to know.
I can't comment on that specifically, Jeremy, but what I can tell you is the costs of continued privatisation is much higher than the cost of bringing water into public hands. 2025 to 2030, we're £22 billion of our bills across the country already set to go out to payments to shareholders and banks. That is a huge amount of money, and that's money that we're going to save that goes into cutting bills, into investing in infrastructure, if we bring our water into public hands.
Listen, it'll be an argument that people will have, but certainly the standard of water companies, the bills and everything right now is absolutely unacceptable to many. Thank you so much indeed. Sophie Conquest, brilliant. Please come again, marvellous. Almost 8 o'clock, we're live across the UK. JK on until 10, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. More after the news at 8, which is next.
Morning to you. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, you know, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. What is it? Just gone 8 o'clock. Where does the morning go? Why is that a different camera angle? Oh, it's back. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. You would talk breakfast, the home, of course, of common sense, and the home of you, the alarm clock Brits. What are you waking up to on Wednesday, the 22nd of July? You're waking up to, it's got to be said, I'm trying to be balanced, but more bedlam from the Burnham government, who have only been in power for 2.5 days. We know, because we talked about it yesterday, we're going to cut VAT on electricity bills. Well, that was a con, because Darren Jones torpedoed that. The ex-minister, he was sacked in the morning, and he said, how are you going to pay for this? You're absolutely lying. This morning, 6:15, it's becoming Trump-esque, really. Most single bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027, Andy Burnham announced. which is interesting. £454 million, Sir Mel Stride. Shadow Secretary of State, Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer told us, at every single paper. He's quite rightly saying, we don't disagree with the sentiment, but who's going to pay for your largesse, Andy? This is socialism. Whether people like this or not, whether they think I'm being unfair, you promise so much to everybody. You offer people sweets, actually, as Charlie Rowley said earlier. People don't know that it's then going to cost them for those sweets. Things in life aren't free, and we are, as a nation, skint already. What is it, 10 or 12 billion a month in interest on the debts we've got, and they're going to keep spending. And ultimately, the only thing that matters is how you pay for that. And I suspect, but I could be wrong, that will be through higher taxation. Dan, on Burnham's buses. This will be fun. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jezza. It's Dan from Kent. So Andy Burnham's only been an MP for, just over a month? And he's only starting his third day as Prime Minister. So how can he come out with these announcements, which are going to cost the country money, without seriously sitting down with a Chancellor who's only on his second day and going through the books? It seems that your cheap policies are trying to curry favour with the public without really having an actual plan on how you're going to take this country forward. Not for me, Andy.
And I think that's the point. You know, I think maybe in the past all politicians would perhaps proffer things to sort of sweeten people up. But I do believe, and maybe I am like stuck record, but I do think the British public are a bit more aware than they've ever been. 0344 499 1000. We'd love to hear from you. Text to 87222. Morning, Jez, says Joey from Burnley. The ban is for using a hose pipe. It doesn't say anything about filling up a watering can from the tap. Or as somebody said earlier, their ban, their hose pipe is now going to identify as indeed a watering can so they can get around this. This is an astonishing story that Thames Water this morning, I mean, this is another one, have instigated a hose pipe ban for more than 10 million people and homes in the south, which is annoying me because I don't want my grass to die, but actually more than that, I don't think it's right that millions of pounds should be given to shareholders, bosses, bonuses, not shareholders actually, whilst everything leaks, the bills go through the roof, and we're faced with having... I mean, well, look, Jez admitted it's not the plants you're worried about, it's the putting green, says Steve. Well, that's probably quite true. Morning, Jez, says Carl. Buses? Flipping buses? What does that do to support bloody taxpayers? Majority drive to go to work. The guy's worse than Starmer already, and I can't think I was ever going to say that. Oh, for God's sake, Carl, you can't say he's worse than Starmer, can you? Andy's in Cheshire. Morning, Jez. On the way to school in the early 80s, we would stop at the corner shop. The elderly lady in there, even though we were in school uniform, would sell us 5 refreshers and a fag and a match for 10p. I thought, where does this go, this story? Good for you, Andy. No. Actually, my chemistry teacher, Mr. Caudry, used to set up, he used to do an experiment, and he'd go back, I think he was a drunk, he used to have a little drink, and we used to get the old Bunsen burner and wrap up litmus paper and have a good old cigarette in there. On the way to school, we've done that. Morning, Jez. Got a friend who's moved, put swimming pool in, and she's allowed to fill it, but I can't water my bloody garden with a hose pipe. Doesn't make any sense at all. 0344 499 1000. Jez, presumably these millions of unregistered people in our country do not pay taxes, working tax or council tax. Why are we expected to subsidise these people, be it in prison or whatever? Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Brighton. Paul, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Morning, Jeremy.
Oh, come on, sound... I've got to get through the next 2 hours, man. I'm going to do that again. Try and give me the impression that you give a toss. Morning, Paul. How are you?
Hey, Jeremy, I'm doing great, man. Yeah, really good. Cool, yeah. Was that over the top?
Yeah, it was. It was completely fake, hopeless. What can we do for you, sir?
Yeah, all I was going to say is I find it abhorrent that we're letting murderers and rapists out in the prisons early. I'm totally against this early release anyway. If you're given 20 years, you should serve 20 years, as far as I'm concerned. But why don't we, because successive governments have failed to build prison spaces, why do we put in people, why don't we let out people for non-violent crimes and let them serve their sentences doing stuff in the community? I don't mean working in a charity shop. I mean, let's clean up our country. Frankly, it's a dump.
I would proffer this, right? And I'm going to agree with you, vehemently disagree with you. I don't care if your crime's minimal or massive. I think if you break the law, you should serve every day of every week of every year of that sentence. What I would do about community, and I said this to Cameron years ago, I would take the 2 million people who are not mentally ill or disabled on the dole, and I would say, whilst you're looking for work and we're paying for you, I'm going to ask you to do something something that not only will give you the incentive to get out of bed and put something in your CV, but you know what? You're going to give something back to us for the money, right? So you're going to do community work, painting a fence, cutting a lawn, and then I'd close the borders, and that would destroy the argument that says that we need cheap labour, Boris, you idiot, in from abroad to fill jobs. That's what I give those people. I think you're right, but I think that's a better answer. Paul in Brighton, thank you very much indeed. What is it, 8:10? We're live across the UK. So we have a new government. We've done the VAT thing. We've done the bus thing. They've been caught on hot mics laughing about early release. We've got a hosepipe ban from Thames Water. And we've got a convicted fraudster as the second most popular, well, I say famous, no, wrong, it's an important person in the British government who overnight has been stripped already of part of a job to dealing with fraud because she's in fact been convicted of fraud. This is very strange, should be the next guest, because believe it or not, we've never met, have we?
I think we've met when we worked here.
Sorry.
Or when I worked here.
Ross Kempsell, you used to work here.
I did.
And you're a lord? How did that... How old? You're about 11. How did you get a lordship for being a... What's happened?
I've gone down in the world since being talk radio.
There's hope for me. How old are you?
34.
And you were a lord?
That's
Who
right.
made you a lord?
Boris.
Did he?
Yeah.
Boris. I was told down the Brexit, let's get breakfast. Why?
I was an advisor in Downing Street.
Oh, were you?
And worked also for the Conservative Party and ran the Conservative Research Department.
I've got so much I want to ask you. Starmer, in the last 2 weeks when he knew he was going, seemed to shed the clothes of responsibility. Listen, I will forever find it heinous that he did what he did to servicemen and women, to pensioners, to waspy women. And I wanted on Monday, because I'm a patriot, to give Andy Pandy a chance.
Yeah.
Hasn't started very well, has it?
No, it's not. It started very badly, and it started to go really badly wrong when Andy Burnham destroyed gilts on his first day in the job. So the big problem that Andy Burnham has is he's proposing £250 billion, according to my calculations, of new government spending. But he only has £23 billion of headroom, according to the OBR, to play with. And those can sound like very abstract figures. So this morning I was thinking about it, and if you translate it into a household budget, and you take the big numbers that are the national level and try and make an equivalent to what you would spend as a family. Andy Burnham has come in saying he's going to spend £25,000, but the family has £2,000 of headroom of spending. So his spending proposals are 10 times his budget. But that's without factoring in the fact that this family already has £270,000 of credit card debt, because that's the equivalent of our 2 trillion national debt.
Brilliant analogy.
What would you do as a family in that situation?
Make savings and get rid of your bills.
Right.
Your debts.
Right. So you've got 3 options. The first is to earn more money, which for the government means more taxes.
Yeah.
The second, as you rightly said, is to make savings. So you cut your spending elsewhere. And the third is to borrow more money, to put more money on the £270,000 credit card debt. But the problem for Andy Burnham is that he has said he's going to stick to the government's 2 fiscal rules. The first fiscal rule is the stability rule, and that means that actually you cannot borrow for day-to-day spending. So all of the stuff you would do as a family, like get a takeaway or go on holiday.
I love the analogy. Go on holiday, get a takeaway.
The government's rule is that you cannot use the credit card for that. So to fund that kind of spending, you either need to put taxes up or you need to cut elsewhere.
In layman's terms, he's going to increase taxes. In absolute layman's terms, if you... And I said this about Starmer. If you have such a big, wide-ranging tent in which there are so many different facets of the Labour Party that you've managed to bring together, a bit like the Tories, if you promise everybody to get yourself on side, you then spend most of your premiership, or if you actually get into power, trying to rob Peter to play Paul or please that person because that person's sticking a knife in your back. Andy Burnham, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I mean, we can talk about financially. The VAT thing yesterday was a con. I'm not going to sniff at 40 quid. Patently, the bills are going up by 13% in October, so that was a con. Today, we've got bus fares capped at £2 from January, 454 billion. The thing that I think is really interesting is that in the past, maybe not because they were conviction politicians, but maybe because we were English and it was the right thing to do and there wasn't a dreadful cost of living crisis, we would sort of accept. the things that we did and everything was fine. And people tend to misplace, I think, the anger amongst British people as, oh, they're all far right and they're all anti-immigrants. No, I'll tell you what they're anti. They're anti going to work and paying their taxes and their stamp and being treated unfairly and being left at the back of the queue. And I think the electorate is far more switched on and is not going to allow the wool to be pulled over their eyes by this guy. And I'm not just saying it. I think he's on very dodgy ground very quickly because there isn't any money. There isn't any money. So stand in Downing Street and tell the people there's no money and tell them like Thatcher did it'll be hard and it won't be nice, but we'll get out of this mess together. We're not going to con you. We're not going to dress it up. It's not good. That's it.
I think there's a huge fact underlying what you've just said there, which is Andy Burnham has also got to stick to another rule, which is that if he borrows any money to fund all of this spending, it has to be within the context that over the course of the 3-year forecast, the overall amount of debt has to be falling against income.
Jesus.
So it makes his...
Why don't we just go bankrupt? Then we won't owe anybody anything. Isn't that how it works?
It makes his window for borrowing very small. So basically, he's going to end up doing one of two things. He's either going to abandon all of the pledges that he's made and disappoint people who believe in them, or he's going to have to put taxes up and borrowing up.
But that's what he's going to do. We know he's going to put taxes up, and I think people's cynicism is well bred. You were big on the Chagos deal, which I thought was... I mean, there's two things about... There's many things about Starmer. The two that really twisted my guts. 3. The pensioners twisted my guts. The treatment of servicemen and women is disgusting. That bill and Herma, to me, the worst thing I've ever seen. To say to somebody who donned the uniform 30 years ago, just wherever you are, there's going to be a tap on your shoulder and you're probably going to be prosecuted, but I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll give immunity to the IRA. The other was the Chagos Islands. Isn't this an easy thing for Burnham? Why doesn't he just cancel it? Well, poll ratings go through the roof.
He should just cancel it, because it's going to cost about £45 billion. And we didn't even include that in the...
Have we got that money?
Absolutely not, no.
So why are we... Explain to me in layman's terms again. The Chagos, why are we giving people money to take it off our hands?
It makes no sense at all, because at the moment we don't need to do anything like that, because it's British sovereign territory and we don't have to pay anybody else to use it. It's ours. But Starmer and Herma and some others came in with this idea that British Indian Ocean territory should actually be owned and run by Mauritius.
But the Chagosian people don't want that.
There is certainly a massive amount of opposition to that amongst the Chagosian community, and the Chagosians who call those set of islands their home, many of them have been in the UK for decades and decades, and they have served in the British Armed Forces, for example. They've made it very clear that they want to be run by Britain, by the UK, not by Mauritius, because actually Mauritius is a very long way from the Chagos Islands. It has nothing to do with the history of the Chagos Islands. And that group of people, it's like saying, would you like to be run by this random third country to them? It makes absolutely no sense at all.
And isn't it true as well, something I heard, and you were full of, you were absolutely all over this. You talk about 45 billion to give, in effect, a piece of land to the Mauritians against the wish of the Chagosian people. Am I right as well in saying that the amount of money that we gave would have meant that the Mauritian... Don't get too wound up, listeners. The Mauritian people would pay no tax whilst working for 18 months. So we're on our absolute arse in the United Kingdom, and Keir Starmer wanted to give that money, which we haven't got, but would give them a tax cut.
It's enough money to take 80% of the entire Mauritian population out of income tax altogether. So God. It makes no sense. I mean, how good would it be here to take 80% of the population who work out of income tax? It would make a massive difference to people. And on the other side, the thing about it is that it almost completely evaporates Mauritius's sovereign debt. So it's like saying to Mauritius...
But we haven't got the money.
No, absolutely not.
Why wouldn't we keep it and build prisons and invest in defence and do the right things for the United Kingdom? Why are we still obsessed with apologising? We're not apologists. Honestly, but anyway, look, he's gone, but it will be an easy win for Burnham. Do you imagine that he's got the foresight or the plan to do that or not?
Well, he's failed to rule out continuing the deal, and it was certainly the case that his incoming team wouldn't distance themselves from it. What's happened in the last 24 hours is the US, which uses the UK-US military base there, is bombing Iran from Diego Garcia. So this is the function of the military base on the Chagos Islands. It allows the US to project all of this air power into the Middle East. So Burnham decided yesterday to continue to allow the White House to do that.
Oh.
So Starmer had made this decision on Friday saying they were allowed, and Burnham rolled it over, which makes me think that he at least has been briefed on the military value of the Chagos Islands, and he hasn't blocked the Americans from using it.
But you know, when we have these conversations, it doesn't make any sense. We're going to give away... Well, we're not going to give away. We're going to give away, yeah, something that we own, and 45 billion quid that we haven't got.
Yeah.
And all to the detriment of a bunch of people who don't want that. They want to be part of us, and yet at I could talk all day with you. I mean, we talked, you know, Burnham, and it's very easy to sit here and give the impression that it's not great, but it isn't great. We talked about the VAT, we've talked about the bus thing. What did you make of the hot mic thing last night? This infuriates me.
I thought it was disgraceful, and you know, cabinet ministers are allowed to joke about things, but to joke about the fact that we've released 50,000 prisoners from jails under the Labour government since they came to power, I think is extraordinary, and I think it just reveals the contempt that there is. Like, Labour ministers just don't think that that matters. But
if you're just tuning in, this is last night at a drinks do. Wes Streeting, who's very quick to criticise and has a right to criticise, and also Shabana Mahmood, who's criticised any coverage she doesn't like, were caught on a hot mic at a sort of drinks do, basically laughing about how the new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, he's going to let them all out, which is really distasteful when you know today that Andrew Harper was a PC who was murdered in the line of duty some years ago. His wife worked tirelessly with charity to set up a ruling that, you know, mandatory life sentences. But these two toe rags got, I think, 13 years, and they're due to be released today after 6 years. And about 12 hours before that, two senior cabinet ministers are laughing about it. Well,
yeah.
Not about that, about the release of early prisoners.
I think it's disgusting, and you can only imagine how PC Andrew Harper's family feel about that. Yeah. The issue that there's been under the Labour government, they introduced this scheme called SDS 40, which means that lots of prisoners can be released early because the government says that there's prison overcrowding. But the government keeps messing it up, and dozens of prisoners have been released who never should have been considered under that scheme.
Yeah.
And we all saw the pictures of serious and violent offenders dancing their way out of prison.
In their Gucci shoes, just to recommit a crime. It does my head in. I don't understand it. One thing, I only ask you this because I haven't had a chance before. I was a massive Boris Johnson fan, and then I became quite cynical. The Boris wave, I mean, that's not a great look, is it?
No, it's not. And I think the fact that net migration went up so much was completely wrong. Whatever the context was with COVID, the reality is that the government didn't get it right, and the system clearly massively over-calibrated towards this idea that you needed to import lots of low-skilled workers into the economy. Economists debate that, right? And they have this view about whether that is the right or the wrong thing to do. What the government, and the same would be the advice to Labour, that they need to understand this, institutionally, the Treasury and the economists who run the government and actually run the system, they have this view that unless you import cheap labour into the UK, the economy will collapse. But there's lots of...
I mean, I said it before you came in, why don't we, and I said this for 15 years, why don't we insist on the people who are not working, who are not mentally ill or disabled, get off their arses and give back to their communities something whilst we're paying them whilst they look, because actually look at it in reverse. Would that not incentivise them to not fall into the morass of, I'm never going to get a job, something on their CV, and it gives something back? Are you telling me they couldn't be hospital porters and fruit pickers? Of course they damn well could.
The divide in Britain now is between the economically inactive and those who work.
Absolutely. And completely agree, completely. And when you finally look at it, I guess it was 3 or 4 months ago, Ross, we had this situation one morning. The welfare benefits budget, finally. So let's get this right. What we're paying people to not work now outstrips what the Exchequer gets in tax for people who do work. What the hell does that say?
Yeah, it's crazy. And the impact is also very broad. It's not just the people who are choosing not to work. There are lots of younger people who would like to work, but they're not in education, employment or training because the government has destroyed their entry-level jobs in bars and nightclubs and everything else with the national insurance contributions rise that Burnham says he's going to reverse. But there clearly is a large number of working-age adults in Britain, and it's counted in the millions, who are actively choosing not to work. And that is a huge sort of systemic problem in the economy.
And you know, whenever I bring this up, the Labour Party recoil and they go, oh, these... No. The genuine are missing out because people are gaming the system, not only those from abroad, but also people illegally, but also people in this country. Listen, I could talk to you forever. It's so good to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Lord Ross Kemsall, Conservative peer. Will you come on more often?
Of course I will.
You've got a great voice for radio. You make this old... You're 34? I could be your dad. Don't say a word. 825 0344 499 1000. This is the day that Andy Burnham announced that bus fares will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. Many of you telling me about your experiences on the bus. There are drunk people, people who don't pay, people who throw up, people who play loud music, people who eat smelly food. But it sounds like a charming thing to do. Morning, Kevin. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Kevin in Sheffield. Regarding Andy Burnham's statement about electricity prices and a cap on bus fares, etc. Can we please get away from this rhetoric that things are free or that they're capped? They're absolutely not. They're all subsidised by taxpayer. So can we please get away from school meals are free? They're not. Bus fares are capped? They're not. Because somewhere along the line, ordinary people like myself are paying through their nose for this nonsense.
Couldn't agree more. 826. Let's go to the deputy political editor of The Sun, top man. We love this man. Ryan Saby, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right. Now, you're a friend, but you're a political nerd. You know far more about me this than I could ever begin to explain. But can I ask you a genuine question? And I actually don't want to have to do this. I'm a patriot. I keep saying it. I want my country to succeed. What an absolute what's-it show for the first 2.5 days. We had the VAT debacle yesterday with Darren Jones sticking the knife in. We've had the most single bus fares in will be capped at £2 from January, and Mel Stride's popped up quite rightly and gone, well, that's another £450 million you've got to find. The Mail and all the papers are writing who's going to pay for your largesse, Andy. He's got no wiggle room. You listen to Ross Kemsall there. These sweets he's giving out, they have to be paid for, and ultimately the cynics amongst us would say, would they not, Ryan? The only way he's going to do that is by raising taxes.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be very, very difficult when it comes to the budget in the autumn. You look at the impact of the Middle East war, borrowing costs going up for the government. There was a report out earlier this week that financial cushion, that headroom that the Chancellor has gone down from 22 billion to 10 billion. So there's less money for the government to actually play with. So you can see politically what this government is trying to do. It's handing out those few sweeteners to try and show that contrast to what Sir Keir Starmer did when he got into government, which was take away the winter fuel payments for millions of people. So they're handing out stuff. Now, it does cost money. And even, at the beginning of this week, Darren Jones, who's ousted by Sir Keir Starmer, it didn't take him too long to look at that policy and say it was unfunded. He was, willing to throw a grenade into the mix at the new government. But as you say, all these policies, that they cost money, and you have to find a way of paying for them.
Interesting as well. I look, so much of what Starmer did, I found repugnant. The Troubles Bill, and it was awful. But this. It's interesting when you said he's giving these things out to give the impression that he's different from Starmer, who stood there and said it's going to be hard. But is this contrast aimed at a bounce in the polls? A poll today, despite the debacle, has seen them draw level with reform. Does he want to creep a few percentage points in front and then literally from there call a general election, or am I missing the point?
I think if he wants to call a general election, I think you look at where Labour have been in the polls over recent months. They've been hovering around 18, 19%. Even if there's a slight poll lead, or a poll bounce. I was speaking to the senior Conservatives just last week, and they were saying he may get to sort of the mid-20s, 26, 27%. I think if you really want to go for a general election and be confident of winning a majority, you need to be nudging above 30, well into the 30% when it comes to the opinion poll. So I think he's got a long way to go. I think what we're trying to see is he mentions about breathing space. I mean, all of these things will be welcome to people, but they don't. The main problems with the economy is growth and the big structural problem in this country that haven't really been addressed properly for the best part of half a generation or so, especially since the financial crisis. And people just haven't felt like they're better off.
No, I agree. There was a moment last night which I'm afraid is not going to go away for Andy Burnham. Problem number 3. There was a drinks do. Today, of course, is a very serious day. Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper, who was killed in 2019, I believe. He was investigating the theft of a quad bike. He was then dragged for more than a mile along country roads when his ankles got caught in the tow rope of a getaway car. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole were both jailed for 13 years in 2020, and yet here we are 6 years later and they are being released. We'll have our own thoughts, all of us, on that. I think it's a sham. I think you should serve your time. But last night, hot mic moment, Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting, newly appointed Defence Secretary, laughing about Alex Norris, the new guy at Justice. Oh, he wants to let them all out. Massively distasteful. Both have issued sort of apologies. I mean, with those, I mean, that's just a terrible look, man, doesn't it? Because people are like, is that what they think?
Yeah, there's one thing having a laugh and a joke with colleagues, but laughing and joking about something so serious, especially when you know that cameras are around and it's in a. I'm not saying it's it's not in a public place, it's not quite in a private place, but it looks like the cameras were around, microphones were picking it up. It's not a great look, and I think once you look at the words of what they actually say, it looks really bad. And I know they've come out and apologised.
Well, Shabana Mahmood hasn't exactly apologised. Have you seen the tweet?
I did read it earlier. It does. It's not that. I think she may have to come out and actually say something else on that today.
I'd go further. I'd go further, right? You'd know more. If this was 6 months down the line, somebody's head might roll for this.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. I mean, they've tried to spin it a little bit this morning by saying, Theresa May and Ken Clarke used to talk about this and maybe joke about this same matter. But this is we're 2 days into a new government. It's not the best look. Look at all the the crimes that people who may be let out have done. Think about the victims. I mean, it couldn't have come at a worse time when we see that the 2 of the killers of PC Harper may be eligible for parole. It's just not a good look. And I think the point is, it's all very well and good when you're Greater Manchester Mayor. You haven't got the scrutiny. You haven't got everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
This is going to be an onslaught. It's going to be an avalanche for Andy Burnham. He's not going to know which way to turn in the coming days. I'm
going to sound really harsh, Ryan. The view from the cheap seats is always easy. You wanted the damn job. I've just had a text from Linda in Stalybridge. That's why Manchester has been left over $1 billion in debt. And now he's walked away and left us with that. And there are lots of people sleeping on the streets. That has doubled. He did the rough sleeping line that he did first day in Downing Street. He did it in Manchester. These are facts. I worked there 15 years. Rough sleeping has doubled in Manchester. Piccadilly is now called Crackadilly. And that's not even just a term. It is full of spice heads and people on drugs wandering around. You're right, that was Manchester. I want to give the bloke every chance, but I'm very, very cynical. His first 2 policy announcements are not properly funded and paid for, and then his 2 new cabinet ministers are laughing about early release. It's appalling. It's appalling.
Yeah, being in power, it comes at you quick, and you've got to make big decisions. You want to have your top team around you who are not going to make those gaps. And I think the trouble is, first impressions count. And I think if you just don't want this to haunt you throughout your premiership.
Do you think he has either the ability, the nous, or the luck on his side to make this work? Or do you believe that after the initial bounce of it's not Keir Starmer, the reality will dawn on many, your readers and our listeners, that actually this is pure socialism, this is Labour, this is not funded, this is not paid for, we're even worse off than we were, and it's time to go. Do you see him rescuing Labour? Because I cynically don't.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, I think, as you say, he'll get through the summer. He'll do a tour of Britain. He will try to appear that he's in touch with the working people. But I think as we get closer to that budget, and he tries to find more money, he's got to find more money for defence. The welfare bill is spiralling. Has he got a grip of the small boats issue? All of these things, we haven't heard too much from him.
Completely right. Completely.
He's going to have to spell all this out.
Mate, listen, great to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Love following you and the stuff you do online as well. Appreciate it so much indeed. 25 to 9. Simon Danshuk, ex-Labour MP, defected to Reform in just a tick, but you're waking up to, well, there's so much going on. Yesterday we had the VAT cut. Today we've got buses at £2 from January, 454 million. Where's the money coming from? And that terrible story, PC Andrew Harper, who was murdered, well, killed, it was carrying out his duty. His killers only got 13 years. 6 years ago, they're out today. And the night before that dreadful judgment, two senior cabinet ministers, Mahmood and Streeting, heard on a hot mic laughing about the early release of prisoners. I'm going to go back to my my bugbear. 11 billion foreign aid. That's what Keir Starmer arranged on Wednesday before he resigned. How much? What could we do with £11 billion? Couple of ships? Couple of prisons? Doesn't make sense to me. Morning, Damon.
Morning, Jeremy. Damon from Wigan. Just a bit of trivia for you. Did you know that when there's a hosepipe ban on, that my ex-employers, I should say, the fire service, we are told to watch how much we fill the appliances. But yet, if you work at one of these garage car parks, jet washing businesses, you can use as much water as you want.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Can I just say that what I love about you all 11 of you, is the way your brains work, Alarm Clock Brits, is utterly fantastic. I was telling the story this morning about Thames Water, who have instigated a 10 million people hosepipe ban in the south. I'm not very happy, I'm sorry. I've been completely serious. We're a bloody island surrounded by water. I don't want my grass to die, right? This is brilliant. Morning, Jez, says Richie. I was an alternate contractor for almost 50 years. Your grass will not die. It'll go brown, but when it rains, it will come back. Grass is simply an amazing plant. Although in mid-Sussex, where I live, we have a hosepipe restriction, not a ban, but I'm lucky. I've got an email from South East Water telling me that I'm exempt from the ban as I'm a vulnerable person. So I don't know how to take that, but fair play to you, Richie and Middy. I'm watering my grass. Well, I'm not. Sean is Kit Kat. I just, that's the way it is. Maybe I get in trouble. Eivor, do you remember Eivor the engine? Do you remember? That's a bit Welsh for you, Christian, isn't it? Haven't heard from your dad today. He's in Chelmsford. Not your dad, either is. There is a new PM called Andy who thinks spending's as easy as candy. He's scrapped energy VAT. He's got policies that look like they've come straight from the dandy. Don't think you'll be the poet laureate, but I appreciate the input. Jez, we have a hosepipe ban here in Devon. Our local river has E. coli in it, for Christ's sake. And raw sewage runs into the sea when we have heavy rain, so they can take their hosepipe ban and give themselves a colonic irrigation with it. Oh, Mary, I love you. It's my favourite one ever. Jez, I'm the same age as you. When we were kids, we had a bath once a week. I didn't, you dirty bugger. I had one every day. What's the matter with you? And a wash every day with a bowl of water and a bar of soap, 'tis true, and a flannel. The old, that one, yeah, that wash. Now people are showering twice a day, bathing children every day, and using watering cans uses far more water than hose pipes. Just saying, says Jane in Hampshire. Yes, I know that, Jane, but I mean, yes, but were we dirty and grubby? I don't know, but I'm still watering my garden. Jezza, what's the chances of Crash and Burnham painting all the London buses yellow to match Manchester? Bee! It'll only cost about £1 billion. Jez, I'm 70. Now we're going back to the chocolate thing. I did mention earlier, and I remember a Mars bar being 7p. Christian, 35. Nigel, 71. I remember going to school with 2 shillings and buying 4 Mars bars. God, there wasn't even electricity when Nigel went to school. He's in Witney. Nice. Jeff's in West Sussex. I'm 70. There's a lot of old people listening today. What is this? What is this? Gold FM for breakfast. I'm your age, friends. I'm 70 and Milky Ways were 3D old money and Mars bars were 4D old money and they were twice as big. That's true. Shrinkflation. Horrible people. Can't remember Mars bar prices, but my first pint of bitter cost 2 bob. That 10 new pence to youngsters like you, says Paul in Dorset. Interesting. Paul in Jersey, in 1979, a Mars bar was 6p. Brilliant. In 1976, the bus fare from my home in Ashton to Makerfield to college was 2p. In 1977, that bus fare went up to 4p. What, and Burnham thinks 2 quid's acceptable? Don't start at me. Ben in London, you mentioned to your guest Alex Wilson that both Labour and Reform are on the same poll ratings. Jeremy, which poll is it you're reading from? Delta? Could you find that out, please? Jesus. What? Was it Delta poll? It was Delta poll. Jezza, says Paul in Luton, my first packet of fags was 10B and H strong, 60p. Do you know how much a packet of fags is now? £22. I mean, Mitch, good morning. Mitch.
Bars are on me, not the Milky Ways are on me. Cheers.
I don't understand some people, but I appreciate the voice note. Right, let's say a very good morning to a man who always has a depth of opinion on every single story we love. In Simon Downshire is a former Labour MP and Reform defector. Morning, Simon.
Good morning, good to be with you.
Jesus, where are you? In an aquarium? What's going on?
I do not know what's going on there.
Mate, you look like Shrek. I mean, just do your ears like that. Do your ears like that. Jesus, we've got Shrek on. Oh, my God. What has happened to him? Are you sure you're... That's awful.
We've got some sort of technical problem.
I can't do this with you that green. I just want to hear your voice. I'll tell you what, let's just ring you back, because honestly, I can't... We'll ring you back. We want you on the show. It must be his camera. He looks like he's going to fancy dress this morning. Yeah, it's right, Christian's right. I felt like I was about to do that interview in night vision goggles if you're tuning in on WhatsApp, on YouTube. A Mars bar was 5.5 pence in 1974, says Sean in Bridlington. Joanna from Salisbury. I'm that old, I can remember a huge Mars bar for 16p, and it helps you work, rest and play. A Mars a day helps you work, rest and play. Nothing about how many calories it was. Morning, Jez. We in the southeast had a hosepipe ban for weeks. I'm at a loss as to how hot countries manage. I was in Tunisia last year and they were watering the grounds in the hotels. Maybe they build reservoirs, says Nick in Kent. Now, wouldn't that be a ridiculous idea? Have we got him back, Simon, or we can't even get hold of him now? It's all gone hopelessly wrong. All right, we're going to go to Buckinghamshire where we try and get Shrek back on the line. Neil, good morning.
Morning,
I'm having a nightmare. Simon Danchuk's link made him look like he was Shrek. Anyway, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. Apart from the fact that the water companies, basically, one of the issues you've got, inside information, is they're too bothered about KPIs and not actually doing the job. The workers are hands tied. So that doesn't help. That's why you get pollution.
What is a KPI, mate? Bear in mind, we're not in the business. What's a KPI?
Well, basically, it's a figure that they have to hit to say you've done so many jobs per day, etc., etc. Now, if you don't hit your KPI, the manager doesn't get his bonus. And then the whole management system is top-heavy. So imagine an upside-down pipe pyramid. If they got rid of some of the middle managers, they would save money, which means they could then put that into the infrastructure, which then they wouldn't be in so much debt.
I mean, all of that makes sense. We've heard about the big bonuses to bosses and bills, but I'm more worried about my grass. Why shouldn't I? Why should I? I don't care about the hosepipe ban. Why am I bothering? I want my grass to be green.
That I can't answer. I'm on the dirty side, not the clean side.
What do you mean you're on the dirty side? If somebody's just tuning in, you're making yourself sound dreadful. What do you mean you're on the dirty side, man?
Waste.
Oh, God, are you?
Yes.
You're up to your eyes in it, aren't you, every day?
Every day, yeah, exactly. But that's
so your life really is foolish, isn't it, to be honest?
Every day, Jeremy.
Oh, bless you, man. You do a good job. Listen, great. I appreciate your involvement. It just, to a lot of people, seems really unfair when they consider the bonuses, they consider the sewage, they consider the leaky pipes, and they're being told they can't do that. But listen, appreciate you call. Neil in Buckinghamshire, 0344 419 1000. A KPI is somebody has to prove their worth across the day or they don't get paid. Imagine bringing a KPI on Damien, who we can never find. G-Spot would fail the KPI. He's on this show. I haven't seen him since 5. I don't know where he's gone. Honestly, literally, I haven't seen him since 5. But he's so much like I used to be that I just excuse his behaviour. Let's say a very good morning to a man who last appeared and looked like Shrek because his camera was crap. Simon Danchuk, hello. Oh, you're back!
I'm back.
What did you do?
Some sort of camera problem, I think.
Good man. Listen, great to have you on, mate. I'd love more time with you always. It hasn't started too well. I'm a patriot. I wanted to. We had the VAT announcement on, electricity bills yesterday. Bit of a con. Down 5%, but it's going up 13%. Today, all single bus fares to be capped at £2 from January the 1st. But as I have to say, Sir Mel Stride pointed out from the Tories, and the front of the Mail makes the point, 454 million. Where's all the money coming from, Mr D?
It's a very good question, isn't it? And this was a policy, introduced by the Conservatives. I think in 2023, they actually capped bus fares at £2. And then Labour, under Starmer, put them up to £3 in 2024. And now you've got Burnham bringing them down to £2 again. There must be a lot of money being spent just in changing the administration of all this. They must be spending millions on administration alone. And like you say, where does it come? It's nearly £250 million, this cost. And none of this spending so far has really been explained to us as to where the money's coming from.
And listen, you were a Labour MP, and we know all about how the Labour Party used to be, and I've made my criticisms of how, and I know that they, to me, right, these are sweets being given out by a guy who's treading water until he's worked out his big plan. But the truth of the matter is that every time you give out a bag of sweets, it's 300, 400 million there. The British electorate, Si, and I think you might agree with me, are so much more switched on than ever before. They want to know where the money comes from. And it doesn't add up, mate. You can't promise people things when you haven't got the money to pay for it.
Exactly. And contrast this, Jeremy, with where we are now as opposed to Tony Blair and Gordon Brown coming in 1997. Everything that they proposed in 1997 in that general election was costed for. Contrast that to Andy Burnham. As the Sun describes him this morning, the Sun newspaper, is a man without a plan. Yeah. And none of this is costed. You've got council house building, you've got rough sleeping being tackled, you've got reducing the tax threshold that people have to pay, you've got bus fares coming down, you've got energy costs having VAT taken off them. This adds up. Nationalisation of the utility companies is estimated. Nationalising the water industry would cost £150 billion. He's making all these promises. None of it is costed.
And also one thing that I wanted to say to you, and I'd love more time with you, mate, but Starmer, in his last act, increased foreign aid budget to 11 billion, Si. When will the Labour Party understand that it's not that we don't care about foreign countries, but there are enough problems in this country? Defence, infrastructure, public services, the health service. Why the hell are we giving that money to other countries? But it doesn't make sense.
No, I agree with you. And there's an ambition within Labour to always increase spending on foreign aid up to 3 percentage points of GDP. It's absolute madness. And I travel around Africa and you see some of this money being spent. And I have to tell you, it's not spent wisely. That's a polite way of putting it. It's a crazy. It doesn't even help African countries, I have to say. Trade is what these countries need.
Absolutely. I think it's gaslighting. Just as we see pictures there, that hot mic moment last night, Simon, you and I have both had our moments with the press, but Wes Streeting and Shabana Mahmood, on the day that PC Andrew Harper's killers released just 6 years after murdering him, when this government is allowing people out ridiculously, in my humble opinion. Mahmood and Streeting laughing to Alex Norris, the new justice. Oh, you're going to let them all out? Appalling.
It really is appalling. And this is a Labour policy, the 2026 Sentencing Act, which allows prisoners to be let out of prison early. And PC Harper's killers are coming out having served less than half their time. They got 13 years. They'll be coming out after 6. I mean, can you imagine what his family thinks about this? It's truly awful. And they're laughing about it. I know it's a hot mic moment, but what are they doing laughing about it? You've got all the grooming gang perpetrators coming out early. What are those? How do those victims feel?
Si, I have to finish, not because I want to. We haven't got much time, but please come on next week. Come on every week. We love you. Simon Downship, former Labour MP and Reform defector. What is it, 9 minutes to 9 or 8 even?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, from now on The Breakfast Show, I'm going to do a KPI, which is a key performance indicator, on every single guest. Catherine Walsh, football reporter of The Sun. Push the button, please, Marky.
Minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Catherine, key performance indicator. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
You've passed. Well done. That's fantastic. You've answered and your signal's great. What are we talking about sports-wise today? Back page. Where is your paper? I've got it all going on this morning. 117 million for Morgan Rogers to go from Aston Villa, who have already lost Tielemans and possibly Watkins, they say, to Fenerbahce, for 117 million quid. When are Chelsea going to stop buying players and start winning trophies?
Well, it's the second time this summer the British transfer record has been broken for an English player. The first time it was £116 million from Elliot Anderson's move from Forest to City. At the end of the World Cup, it's now Chelsea who have spent £117 million on Rodgers. He leaves Villa, who have Champions League football next season, I might add, and Chelsea do not have any European football, but they seem to have a limitless budget.
Why are Villa, who'd got themselves into Europe, dispensing of Yuri Tielemans? I mean, Morgan Rogers, there's rumours that Emi Martinez, don't like anybody that's a football from Argentina, though, at the moment, so that's OK. And also Ollie Watkins. Is this a deliberate rebuild, or have they been outsmarted, the Villa people?
There's a feeling among fans that they, and quite rightly so, they're annoyed that they're seen as a bit of a building club, a transfer club that move on players for high profits. They did buy Rodgers for only £15 million 3 years ago, so to move him on for an extra 100 million, I can understand why they would.
They've got to pay 20% to Middlesbrough. They'll pocket 80 million, which is probably a couple of good players, so I guess that makes sense. In terms of the fallout continuing after the World Cup, I was saying yesterday, be very interesting, won't it, to see the reaction that Argentinian players get in the Premier League next season, like Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea.
Certainly. I mean, the feeling among Chelsea fans that I certainly know and reporters is that it won't go down well at the start of the season. He, of course, also was looking to leave Chelsea this summer, but Real Madrid didn't want him. So I can't see him being welcomed with open arms at Stamford Bridge. The same is true with Lisandro Martinez. United fans did have an Argentinian flag after the FA Cup final in the stands when they won the FA Cup following his last World Cup triumph, but I don't think we'll be seeing any Argentinian flags at Old Trafford this season.
Everybody I see, very, very quickly, everybody I see is still absolutely raging about Thomas Tuchel. And I read yesterday that Pep Guardiola's in chats with the Italian FA. I'd like to just make this public. If Pep Guardiola goes to the Italian FA and our FA don't offer to offer and grab him, I think it's the biggest day the FA will
links with Pep and the FA a few years ago, but he obviously wanted to stay on with City. They need to go for him. They can't allow the Italian FA to get that coup. Thomas Tuchel made a massive mistake during the World Cup. He seems to have got a bit of a bitterment over that mistake and not come to terms with it too. And I can't see how, you know, moving forward to the Euros, that it should all just be brushed aside. He was supposed to be a step up from Southgate.
You're amazing, Catherine. Thank you. Who do you support, by the way?
I support United.
Right, goodbye. Catherine Walsh, football reporter from The Sun. We love her. Thank you very much indeed. Sun Sport has everything. Fantastic newspaper. Almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Next hour, busy Isabel Oakeshott. First on, back after the news at 9, which is next.
Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense. Talk Breakfast on Talk. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Final hour of Wednesday's breakfast show, just gone 9. Isabel Oakeshott on the way. You're waking up to Talk Breakfast, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brits, tell your friends we do it Monday to Thursday from 6 till 10 for now. Sorry, don't do it for now. Never mind. Anyway, listen, if you do want to be part of the show, you can phone us. You can send a voice note, 0344 499 1000. You can leave a voice note. You can also text us, 87222. Hi, Jez, love the show. I live in Mazoron in Spain. Right, I went to A&E yesterday as I tripped over my hose pipe. I saw 2 doctors and an X-ray all within an hour. Fabulous service. Luckily, I didn't break anything, just tendon damage. I thought that, so we've actually combined 2 stories there. which is that in Spain you can have your hose pipe out, whereas it's banned by Thames Water for 10 million people in England. Plus, also, if you do get your hose pipe somewhere, and I thought it was going to be like that, I did the Jeremy Kyle show, you can go to hospital in Spain and they'll see you within an hour. Right, that's it. We're off to Marbella tomorrow, all of us. Crap. 0344 499 1000. So there's a story about a hosepipe ban today, and of course another announcement from Andy Burnham. Most single bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. It's already been pointed out by the Tory party. This will cost £454 million, and as the front of the Mail has been screaming all day, who's going to pay for the largesse of Andy Pandy, who only arrived on Monday and has already promised a tax VAT cut on electricity, which is non-fundable. That doesn't work. That's been completely torpedoed. Today, free buses. I like this from Stephen Morvan. Most of the users of buses outside London have a bus pass, so it's already free. Hi, Jez. Mark from the West Midlands. Hose ban. Bet car washing firms still allowed to wash their bloody cars, though. Yeah, listen, you must adhere to the ban. I won't be. It's my choice. Burnham says he's reducing bus fares across England to £2. Is he aware that a bus journey in London is £1.75? Oh, Jesus. Pat's in Norfolk. When I was young, I remember going to Chippy and getting a piece of cod and 4p of chips for 1 shilling 5p in today's money. I'm 76 now. They were the days, and we still had to walk up bloody hill first thing in the morning. This came about because I said I remembered Mars bar being 7p. Now, every single guest who comes on this show this morning is going to have to deal with the KPI, which is the key performance indicator, including those who leave voice notes and callers. Curtis, good morning.
Chezza, Curtis from Lingfield here. Loving the show. Mate, what we've got to do is we've got to set out some KPIs for Andy Burnham, I think. And in 2 years, we can look back at them and see if he's hit any of them. So, mate, have a good one.
Good point, thank you. A KPI is a key performance indicator. Laura Jane's in Hampshire. I hope you're going to pass my KPI, Laura Jane.
Good morning, Mabel.
Sorry?
Mabel.
Mabel?
Good morning, Mabel. Well, isn't that your name when you have your, whatever it's called, your pronoun? Something Mabel?
I identify as he, him, it, and basically in my house, not polite, but it doesn't matter. How are you, Laura Jane? Are you happy with Andy Burnham, my darling?
Well, at the moment, I'm watering my garden.
Good girl.
I'm watering my garden. It's not actually the lawn that I worry about. I know you worry. I worry about all the beautiful things that are there, and I water them because I live near the Test, on the borders of Wiltshire, where Laura of Wiltshire lives, and we have a hosepipe ban has been in place for about a week and a half now, and if they had put out more buckets to catch the rain between January and March, we wouldn't be having this hosepipe ban, which I'm ignoring anyway, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm of an age where I can't wander around with a watering can. It's ridiculous. Anyway, the other thing I want to say is this bus fare thing. Why is it delayed to 2027? That feels a bit peculiar. And the other thing is, we all who listen to talk are very highly intelligent audience, aren't we? And we all know that it's a load of... But this is aimed at people who don't really listen to the radio, who don't read the newspapers, who see this as a soundbite. Oh, look, bus fares, great. And all the little things that he's doing is not aimed at the average person, alarm clock Brits. They're all far too intelligent for this. It's aimed at people who are not really listening, who don't look. I bet you.
Which is exactly why, when the mainstream media and certainly the Burnham Broadcasting Corporation, as I've renamed it, would not talk about things that I think and we think at Talk are important, we'll keep doing it. You're dead right. There will be a huge amount of the electorate today who go, bloody hell, he's given us £2 bus fares. The reality is, probably, well, most definitely, the only way that that will be financed is by raising your taxes, ladies and gentlemen. We are skint. And the one thing about this station, more than anything else, common sense, yes, honesty, we'll be telling it how it is. Laura Jane, we love you. Thank you for coming on. 9:08. Let's say a very good morning to a woman who is so dedicated to her job. So the KPI, the key performance indicator, is gone through the roof for Isabel Oakeshott because she's on holiday. But unlike most MPs who are like, oh, I'm not working, there she is. How are you, sweetheart?
Good morning. You know those people that put messages on their, like, they're out of office, even on their normal email that says things like, please know I only work Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I finish at 5 o'clock. And if you message me outside these hours, then you can just bugger off. How annoying is that? I'm not one of those
Completely.
people.
When I first came to news, I won't say who, but somebody said to me that, you know, most people work Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Work out what that spells, and I think you get the whole concept. We tend to try and work 5 days a week. How's the holiday?
Oh, well, it's lovely, Jezza, but I mean, it really is lovely. But, you know, we're still very weighed down, naturally, by the Anne Widdecombe case. And I know we're very limited as to what we can say
Very
about
much so.
it, but there was information that came out yesterday that I'm sure, without going into too many details, is going to be very heavily on the minds of an awful lot of our viewers and listeners. And you know, I can't get it out of my mind, really. And just the thought of what has become of us as a country that something like this can happen. And
I think that's really important. I mean, it is, as you know, you've been doing this longer than me. It's really important that we understand that the legal process has to go through. We can only report what is said in court, but there is going to be an awful lot. And the ramifications for the security issues of politicians of whatever political party are certainly going to reverberate. But yeah, in cold basic terms, a 70-year-old woman in her kitchen just having a lunch, being bludgeoned to death by, you know, there's no point in getting involved in that. Horrible. And I'm old enough to remember you could leave your front door, your back door, your side door. Old grannies knew that somebody would look after them, and the streets of London were different to what they are now. And it's, yeah, mate, it's frightening. I know that you and I would be accused of being cynical, so I'm going to set the record straight and say that when Andy Burnham waddled up Downing Street on Monday, I was fully prepared to accept that Starmer had gone, thank the Lord, Rachel Thieves had been cast aside, and that as a patriot I wanted it to work. What an absolute show in the first 3 days. Yesterday we had VAT. Big thing, I'm cutting VAT off energy bills. Right, it's about 40 quid. And then Darren Jones goes, actually, how much is that going to cost? You haven't funded that. This morning, 6:15, we had most single bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. All very admirable, until the Tory party rightly pointed out that'll cost £450 million. Front page of the Mail, I know you're away. Who's going to pay the bill for Andy's largesse? I am astonished, actually I'm not, I am astonished that 2 days in, the first two things he's announced have already been pulled to shreds. They're not financed, they're not packaged, and it feels like we're right back to where we were last week, just with another chameleon in number 10.
And meanwhile, you've got ministers caught on hot mics, in other words, microphones they didn't realise were on, joking about releasing prisoners. Now, you know, I know how these sort of get-togethers are, and it's just banter between, you know, colleagues and so on. And, you know, we all have a bit of a laugh, don't we, in our different work settings. But at this sensitive stage of a new premiership, there just isn't really the scope for having that kind of clumsy blunder. And I think it's been a difficult first few days for Andy Burnham. Hopefully, for the sake of the nation, he will get into his stride. But you've got to look at the kind of people that he's put in top positions. I mean, these are hard left wingers, very ideological. I believe we had another boat coming over from France yesterday of migrants. There's no agenda.
No, we're not talking. Sorry, can I just be the official spokesman for the Labour government? Can I shut you down, Miss Oakeshott? We're not talking.
Right.
Mr. Burnham is not talking about immigration, the welfare benefits bill. He's not talking about net zero or a grooming gang inquiry. We're going to just make sure that you can get on a bus for £2. It's ridiculous.
Brilliant. I mean, you know, I like a bus, and I know that makes a huge difference to a lot of people's lives, but it just isn't the sort of the big picture, is it? And without resolving the big picture, we are going to go on having a very difficult time in the UK. There's something else that I don't think has had nearly enough coverage, because so much else has been going on in the news agenda, and that is the government's attempt to block us from knowing how many crimes are committed by foreign nationals and by immigration status. So this is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
No, this is an actual state-sponsored cover-up. They are taking legal measures to try to block the release of that information. Why? Because they know that when those facts and figures eventually come out, as I'm sure they will, whether it's now or whether it's under a future government, they will reinforce what many of us already fear and what the endless media stories of individual cases tell us, that a significantly disproportionate number of violent crimes and sexual assaults, and also lower down the kind of criminal food chain, you know, an awful lot of smaller crimes are committed by overseas nationals. We deserve to know this. And Andy Burnham's new administration could put down a good marker here and say, you know what, we're not going to cover up that stuff.
Do you know what's really interesting? There are so many markers they could put down. Absolutely, you're spot on. The hot mic thing is disgraceful, but on the day that PC Andrew Harper's killers are released, they could put down a marker on people serving prison time for prison time. We had Ross Kempsell on it. They could undo the Chagos Islands. £45 billion when we're as skin to skin that'll allow 80% of Mauritian people to be tax-free for 18 months. We're taking the mickey, I think, repeatedly, Isabel, out of the British public. And that is how, you know, somebody just made a point which probably sounds awful. It said, you know, there are big issues, and Andy Burnham's talking to a certain part of the electorate. To me, he's talking to Manchester. I don't think he gets the whole big scale thing, even 48 hours in, but I'm sure he'll grow into it. But the thing is, for me, I want to make sure that the people who go, oh, Andy, amazing, buses are £2, or Andy, thank you, that they understand that it is absolutely nailed on that they will end up paying for that because their taxes will go up, and that actually shrewd or responsible government would be, we're in a hole, we're not going to pay for things we can't afford, we're going to make savings on things that really are taking the mickey out of where we're in the position we're in. To me, it makes sense. But by the way, before we move on from buses, you like buses? I can't think of anything worse.
I don't like buses.
No,
I actually gave some misleading information there.
Yeah.
I don't like buses, but what I meant by that is I recognise that buses can be useful.
Yeah.
That's about it. But for a lot of people, they really are a key way of getting around. So I don't want to be snobby about it.
No, I'm not being snobby, but whenever I've only been on a bus once, there were drunks, there were people who didn't play, somebody was playing loud music and somebody was eating fast, smelly food, so I'm not going back. And it stopped.
Same as the tube then. I mean, that's
true.
how it is on the tube.
Now, listen, don't go upsetting Lord Khan this morning. That was quite interesting. I never had a chance to say this to you. One of Starmer's last actions was to give Sadiq Khan a lordship, or whatever you call it. And there he was outside clapping Starmer off, but not seen at Burnham's accession, which has immediately got my brain going as to whether he's positioning himself for 2 or 3 years down the line, Sadiq Khan.
What an utterly depressing thought. You know, the rise of the they're not even B-list, these politicians. No. You know, they are somewhere down there at about H-list.
That's how I feel as a celebrity. I know, yeah, it's great.
It's so depressing, isn't it, Jezza? And I'm really worried that this new administration is actually going to be, if anyone can imagine it, significantly worse than the last one.
I think for me, the last couple of days I've looked at him, and you would never have me being able to say anything decent. Starmer, I'm sure, underneath, but what he did to the soldiers and men and women at the Troubles Bill, and what he did to the pensioners left me, and farmers who killed them, so it's left me cold. Don't have time for that. Him and Herm are dangerous. This guy seems to be polished. Well, his face looks polished, but it's all a bit small time, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the bloke. And I'm not. I like the fact that we should spread across the country. I like the fact that he ran what he did, but it's all a bit nicey, and I'm going to cut rough sleeping. And you go, who advised you to say that? Because you've only got to check the facts, and in fact it doubled in Manchester. I'm going to cut VAT. Did anybody tell you that it's going up 13%? I'm going to do the buses. Has anybody told you that they're going to attack you for where the money comes from? And it just doesn't, to me, he hasn't looked, I'm trying to find the right word, he hasn't looked very mature in the role so far, unless I'm missing the point.
Well, I think Manchester is such an important case study, and I know it's had a bit of attention from the media, rightly so, because Manchester is Andy Burnham's test bed, isn't it? Running the whole country. And you're absolutely right. I was astonished when he made that pledge on rough sleeping, because, as you say, his record, he put it at the heart of his agenda in Manchester and found that it was really incredibly difficult to do. And I'll tell you one thing, you're never going to cut rough sleeping if you don't tackle illegal immigration, because that is a key part of the problem. Jezza, my colleague Christian Drogan spent many hours last night in a part of Manchester which is Piccadilly, otherwise known as Crackadilly. And he has been sending me overnight a lot of videos and footage from that, and I will be hoping to bring you some of that coverage on Talk later this week. And I think people are going to be pretty dismayed.
If we could get any of that tomorrow on breakfast, my darling, that would be amazing.
Let's just put it this way, he was pretty concerned for his own safety, and
I spent 15 years living there, and I'm all for self-promotion, but the problem is, and having been stripped bare by the press, I know what happens. And if you say I'm going to end rough sleeping, if you say my buses, they will start digging. And rough sleeping has doubled in Manchester. And Manchester Piccadilly Gardens, where we could sit and have lunch, I did the Jeremy Kyle show there for 15 years, is now full of, I'm sorry, Mr. Burnham, this is a fact, drug addicts, people out of their heads on spice, unemployed people who are drinking, and illegal migrants. And that is the reality of Manchester, as I've seen things in Bournemouth, we've seen things in London. That report the other day from Samara was just off Park Lane. Patently people who are pickpocketing or doing illegal things. I wonder whether they're going to be moved along by Burnham's militia. Obviously not. You're right. To me, he's made sort of stupid errors really, really quickly, which doesn't fill me with any real hope for the country, sweetheart.
I mean, just going back to Manchester, and I did encourage Christian to go to some good bits of Manchester and to look at some of the things that Andy Burnham has done positively. So I haven't reviewed everything that Christian found yet, but there are definitely good stories.
Yes, there are. There are.
And in fairness, we could go to any part of Britain and go to the worst, most dangerous street and say, look at this, broken.
It just to me looks student politics in a serious world. That's what it looks like, which is probably
it couldn't be more serious for our country at this point. I think we've said this a lot on Talk. We are at a tipping point here where the country is only just still able to be salvaged because the problems that have been inflicted, not just by 2 years of Starmer, but 14 years of failure and betrayal by the Conservatives, there will become a point where it's not reversible. And that is in large part due to, and there's so many factors, but touching on just a couple, you get to a point where the education system has failed too many people. You've got far too many people who are welfare dependent, and you've got far too many people who shouldn't be here. It's actually really difficult to reverse those things.
I couldn't.
No time to lose.
I mean, you and I would always agree. I just, again, it astonishes me that. I mean, it astonished me that Starmer had 4 years to prepare. He knew he was going to be Prime Minister, no plan. In fact, the lady, wasn't it Sue Gray, who did the first 100 days, was gone day 93. This guy's been plotting this with his heavies, or his Manchester maidens, as they're called in the newspaper, for a year. We read, didn't we, before he came in, that they expected Starmer to stay till September, which would have given them time. And Starmer, as anything, I've supported Starmer and gave him the 2 fingers and said, I'm off. But I would have thought that there was more about him and his people to not realise that the VAT thing and the bus thing is going to be pulled aside, and that there are 4 or 5 main things, starting with the boats, welfare, net zero, I keep saying it, a grooming gang, judicial grooming, that you'd at Chagos, that you could just do one of those, drilling in the North Sea. Nothing. Buses. Doesn't, I mean, it might impress a few 100,000 people, but I believe and I hope that the majority of this country is actually now at a point where they realise that they have to be involved.
I just think they don't get it, do they?
No.
Don't get it. You and I in charge, we'd have reversed all of those stupid things. We wouldn't be doubling foreign aid, etc.
I'd take that 11 billion and I'd build 2 prisons and build some warships. I don't understand it. Am I allowed to ask a personal question?
Always.
Mr. Tice is obviously on holiday, thoroughly deserved. Speedos or swimming shorts?
Oh, he's got lovely swimming shorts. Yeah, he's very well dressed.
Is he relaxing?
I would say ish is the answer to that.
Give him
I
my
would
best and
say
tell him
ish.
to have a glass of rosé and relax a bit more, because he'll be back on the coalface pretty bloody soon. Thank you, sweet. I would love to get that Christian stuff if we can. That'd be brilliant.
That today.
All right, my darling, thank you so much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott, see, so dedicated. She passes the KPI. She's on holiday and on this show every single morning. We appreciate it. Matt, good morning.
Hiya, Jess. Cobbers in Warrington. Just going out in the van, just listening to the show today. Just treating the Shimano mood, just laughing. You know, we think it's hilarious that prisoners are getting, let them all out, go on, it's great. You go to prison because you've done a crime, and you should cover your full sentence. Whether you've robbed a bank, or you've raped a woman, or you've murdered someone, prison is there for a purpose. Now it seems that it pays to go break the law. And these people running our country don't care about us. They don't care about the people who go out working every day. It's funny to them because they're not in touch with the real world. It makes me sick. And as soon as they're gone, the better.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
As something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I think it's a good idea on The Breakfast Show to start talking about people's ages. Yes, I'm the oldest and my knees hurt in the morning. Tony's in Marchwood. Not sure where Marchwood is. Why have I said that? There's probably 5 of them. Reference the hosepipe ban. This is Thames Water. Despite the fact that most of the big bosses are getting millions and millions of pounds in bonuses, despite the fact they lose billions of gallons of water every day and the bills are astronomical, Thames Water has instigated a hosepipe ban for 10 million people. I am ignoring it. That's my choice as a person. I'm not condoning that. Tony says, we haven't built a bloody new reservoir in the UK since 1992. Since the population has gone up by about 13 million people, the average person uses 145 litres of water a day. That's an extra, I don't know what that is, trillions of litres a day needed just for the popular increase. No wonder we've got these bloody bans. Somebody else said they're going to make sure that their hose pipe starts to identify as a watering can so they can't get into trouble. Oh, God. Jez, I'm 72 and remember going to the cinema on a Saturday, seeing 2 films, as having enough for a bag of milk bottles, says Keith in Lincolnshire. Do you remember milk bottles? None of you would remember, would you? In a little little white plastic bag, you get about 10 of them for 2p. This is brilliant. Liam in Folkestone's done a bit of a ditty. Today's talk with Jeremy Kyle has ranted on air with great style. My Bentley's gone dusty, my greens are all crusty, and this hose ban's simply too vile. Don't start sending me, otherwise we'll have the lady from Devices and everything will go wrong. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Craig on buses. Hello, Craig.
So the cap on bus fares, well, will that help the illegal migrants? Not really, because from what
my dad tells me is that on the X84 bus heading into Leeds that sets off from Ilkley and it goes through Otley and he picks up people at the hotel who are the illegal migrants staying there. They jump on the bus and they all spring £20 notes to give to the driver. He doesn't have any change for that kind of money and he just waves them down the bus to sit down, so they get a free ride into Leeds, and I presume they do the same on their way back as well after they've had a good day, you know, at work, which is not what they're supposed to be doing because they're not allowed to work. But anyway.
Brilliant. So, slightly distracted. Excellent voice note, Craig. Thank you. By Mark, who said, there's a way over you watering your lawns, Jeremy, without getting into trouble. Just get one of those helicopters to fly over and water from above. Morning, Jez. I'm 38. I could go out when I was 17 with a tenner, get 5 pints of Carling and 10 Lambert and Butler. We had a good time back in those days. Jez, I don't think, says Jim in Devon, that the Speaker's going to be very happy with all these announcements of policy being made outside of the United Kingdom. I agree. Let's say a very good morning to the head of comms at Popular Conservatism. It was a delight to have her on. Annunziata Rees-Mogg, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy because I can go on a bus for 2p.
Jesus. £2. £2.
So just love your take on this, Annunziata, because, right, I'm a patriot, right, so I wanted it to work. I'm already listing the VAT debacle, torpedoed by Darren Jones. I'm talking about the bus thing, and in fact, Sir Mel Stride came on and said that will cost 450 million. Most papers are saying, you know, who's going to pay for all these sweets you're giving out, Andy? And yet, almost very quickly, within 3 days, and I said it just now, I'd love you to take it, to me, it feels a bit student politics and a bit small time. Does that sound awful, or do you know where I'm coming from?
It's fiddling whilst Rome burns. It's pretty little baubles that are essentially meaningless whilst the rest of it falls to pieces and the foundations are crumbling. They're quibbling over whether we'll actually have defence spending that we need. Lots of things are unfunded. The departments are all being told to cut their budgets, whilst the Prime Minister says, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, to make him look popular. It's absolutely student politics. You've hit the nail on the head.
Mary in Canterbury says, I'm old enough to say this to you, Annunziata. My nan used to say, all fur coat, no knickers. She says that would sum up Andy Burnham's government. It's actually very true. I know it's a slightly cheeky phrase, but I always say that if you went to any constituency right now, I think you and I and most sane people would assume that people would talk about, I'm afraid, the boats, the illegal migration, possibly net zero, the welfare benefits bill, drilling in the North Sea, a judicial look and inquiry into the rape gang, but nothing from that. Buses and VAT that was a con. Not impressed.
No, and I saw someone say, and it's so true, did he learn nothing from Keir Starmer?
Yeah.
That doing U-turns in your first week is a really bad look. And the income tax threshold, he implied it would be increased, as the Tories had been. It got to a ridiculously low point under the last Tony Blair, Gordon Brown Labour government. Tories started increasing it because when you're earning minimum wage, you should not be having that then taken back by the government. Because of COVID, the Tories froze it on a temporary basis. Labour have extended that. It now hasn't kept up with inflation for years. He said he would increase it. It's just over 12,500 that you get tax-free before you start paying into income tax. It should have gone up. He suggested it will go up, and he's already U-turned on it. That's a bad look, and that's for the hardest working, lowest earning, and not the benefits bill that he will not tackle.
No, and actually, you know, we can talk about how he dresses it up, Annunziata, with, you know, it's about new politics and all this sort of stuff. The truth of the matter is, we know, anybody with a brain cell will tell you that essentially at the end of the day, whatever platitudes are thrown out, that the Labour Party know only to promise everybody everything and then scupper us all with increased tax, because ultimately it has to, quite rightly, be paid for. I look at those first two mistakes, three actually, and then I think about that hot mic moment. If people are just tuning in, this was on the day that PC Andrew Harper, who was murdered by two thugs who only got 6 years, are they going to be released, which sums up this early release disaster under Labour. there's a cocktail party or a do and there's a hot mic and Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting are laughing with the new Justice Secretary, you want to let them all out. No thought whatsoever for the victims, for Andrew Harper's family and all the other people who have been killed or whatever. Unbelievable. I mean, I'd be raging if I was Andy Burnham, but that's an appalling look, isn't it?
PC Harper was an absolute hero,
yeah.
And a new law was brought in that life would mean life if you killed an emergency worker in his name, and this is just going back on all of that. It's completely shameful. This whole policy of early release. I mean, what's the point in a judge giving someone a severe sentence if they're going to be out in less than half of it?
I mean, I read on Friday, because they always argue with them. They go, well, there's no space. Well, there's three very simple solutions. One is to deport foreign criminals in a heartbeat. The other is to not give £11 billion to foreign aid projects. Sorry, we have need here. And the other is to change the system that you quite rightly said, which is to build a couple of prisons, and most of all say, whether it's 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, you're serving the bloody sentence for the crime you committed.
Absolutely. And being let out early because there's not space is just not an excuse.
No.
And somehow they can build enormous camps for hundreds of illegal migrants, converting often ex-military properties, convert them into prisons, move the open prisons that you could secure easily into those, and make the open prisons secure. That there are definitely ways you can do this. Our planning system is an issue that needs addressing, but you could get this done if you had a will to get it done. And instead, they've said, let's have dangerous criminals back on our streets. I'm feeling this morning as the way PC Harper died. He was stopping three thugs who were loaded up with weapons in their boot of their car. He stopped them from stealing a quad bike.
Yeah.
A very rural crime. And this morning I tried to get my children to school and my lane was shut. And there was a big sign saying police incident, road closed. And I had to get my daughter to move the cones because we could not get out of our house. And someone's burnt out a van in the middle of our lane. Well, we're in the middle of nowhere. This will be a van that has been nicked and probably been used for nefarious purposes. Obviously, the police don't tell you anything. This all happened in the middle of the night. I was unaware of it. But these rural crimes, PC Harper was actually tackling. And why would a policeman put themselves in that situation if all that's going to happen basically is a rap on the knuckles and get on with your life?
I could not, Annunciata, I could not agree with you more. I think it is, I do not understand a crime. We've become, I have to move on, but we've become almost apologists. We've become the victims. I mean, certainly that hot mic moment, to me, the response has been phenomenal, which is the victims don't matter. These people don't understand, they don't care. Listen, great to have you on. Thank you so much. I hope you can go and get her from school. You're all right now? Yeah. I'm quite surprised when you said the police didn't tell us nothing. I'm surprised they turned up, to be honest with you.
Well, they've put up a sign. I assume someone put out the fire. Brilliant.
Annunciata Rees-Mogg, thank you so much indeed. Talk Breakfast is on. Perry, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. I'm absolutely fed up with these politicians think that we're all stupid. You know, when he was going, he's going to make things easier for people. He's going to take that little bit of a burden off for people. You know, he's going to knock £45 a year off my energy bill. He can poke his 80p. What does he think an extra 80p is going to do for me a week? They just wind me up. They make it sound like I should be grateful because he's saving me 80p. It's not even a packet of bloody digestives.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
They're just asking me how big my garden is that I'm going to go home and water. I'm not watering it, and I can't see the bottom of it. That's not the garden, my toes, because of my garden. I'm joking. 0344 499 1000. Before we go to Sir Malcolm Rifkin, former Foreign and Defence Secretary, I do love this. Morning, Jez, says Keith in Nottingham. So this week, a Russian warship has been firing live rounds 46 miles off the coast of England, and the UK is monitoring it. But don't worry, there's a quid off your bus fare, so Wayne and Waynetta can buy their vapes, their 20 Marlboro Lights, and have a lovely time down the pub. 0344 499 1000. Talk breakfast on until 10. We're, of course, covering the news that Andy Burnham this morning announcing that single or most single bus fares in England will be capped at £2 from January the 1st, 2027. Immediately, everybody's jumping up and down, quite rightly, in my opinion, saying, where's the money coming from, Andy? Yesterday, the VAT cut on domestic electricity bills. They're about 800. The VAT's 5%. That was 40 quid. He didn't announce, of course, that it goes up later in the year, because that's what Ofgem have said. So it's not been the nicest start, the best start, the most successful start. We had the hot mic moment last night, and many people are questioning whether this is just Keir Starmer in different clothes. Let's say a very good morning to a man who held two of the most important jobs in government. He was the former Foreign and Defence Secretary, Sir Malcolm Rifkin. Malcolm, good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you.
We might as well get to it. It's not been a particularly auspicious start, has it, for Andy Burnham? I mean, within 5 minutes of the VAT, an ex-cabinet minister torpedoed that. We've got free buses this morning, and Mel Stride straight out the block saying that's 450 million quid. And the most damning thing was that appalling hot mic moment last night on the day that poor PC Andrew Harper's family have to deal with the release of those two thugs after just 6 years, Sir Malcolm.
Well, you've raised a number of points, and I'm not going to even try and respond to all of them, but you started off by saying it's not been a very, very good start. I think you need to make a comparison with the first decisions of the Starmer government when they first came to power a couple of years ago. We all remember what that very first decision was, to cut the winter fuel allowance from some of the poorest people in the country. And compared to that, Burnham may not have been particularly impressive, but what he's been doing is making announcements which are helping people rather than harming them, particularly people on low income. So it makes a difference when you become Prime Minister. From the very moment that happens, you have to know how it's going to be funded. Before then, up till now, Burnham has been able to say what he'd like to do. But to be fair, I'm not a Labour supporter. I'm a passionate opponent of the Labour Party. But of course, when you're in either an opposition or when you have not yet taken office, you can talk about your aspirations. Well, the moment you take over, they have to be funded, and because that's the first question people will ask.
And actually, that's where this is a really good point. I think that if there's a lack of... if there's one thing that I've looked at this week and considered is that yet again we seem to, maybe I'm wrong, have another politician or another government that doesn't really believe or understand that the majority, the silent majority, have woken up in this country and they are not going to be fobbed off anymore. There's a pound off your bus, everything's fine. They are, Sir Malcolm, doing exactly what you said. They're questioning where that money is coming from and working out that it'll probably be a tax rise somewhere down the line.
Right. Now, look, again, I'm not going to be partisan about this. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. Burnham has become Prime Minister not much more than 24 hours ago. Don't expect miracles suddenly to be achieved, that you can make dramatic announcements, know how it's going to be funded and all that sort of thing. That would be absurd, and we all know that would be absurd. So he's got a very difficult task, as would anyone taking on a new job as Prime Minister. He's got to actually indicate the trend of government that he believes to be in the public interest, the sort of things he would like to do. And he is, I would assume at this very moment, saying to his new Chancellor and to other ministers, you've got to find ways of finding the funding, otherwise we will not be able to deliver what we're promising. Now, that's what any prime minister would have to do in any country, in any democracy. So I'm no great enthusiast for Labour governments, as you know, but I'm not going to pretend that somehow he's behaving in a disgraceful way after 24 hours.
No, I didn't use the word disgraceful. I just think he's been found out a little bit. I was wondering, of course, you held the role of Foreign and Defence Secretary.
Not at the same time.
No, but you were so multi-talented, Sir Malcolm, you probably could have done.
I would have loved to have done it.
Yeah,
but
both. What did you make of his cabinet? Certainly, what did you make of Ed Miliband as Foreign Secretary? I believe he was sort of neutered by going there.
Sure. First thing to remember is that when Starmer was Prime Minister, he was almost Foreign Minister as well. He spent an awful lot of time travelling abroad, as all Prime Ministers have to do to some degree. But he did it exceptionally, and he did it less bad, if I can put it that way, than his domestic policies. He was quite well respected in many heads of government. Now, it's going to be different with Burnham. Burnham doesn't have the same interest in foreign policy. He will be involved. All prime ministers have to be involved. But it was terribly important to have a foreign minister who is going to be a personality in his own right. Yvette Cooper, who he replaced, was hardly known during her period as Foreign Secretary, partly because of her personality, a very intelligent lady, but not a strong personality, but partly because she was eclipsed by Keir Starmer on all the foreign policy issues. I think what we're going to see now is Burnham concentrating on domestic issues. And whatever you think of Ed Miliband, and I'd rather it had been David Miliband rather than Ed Miliband. It had to be that family that was providing the occupant of the Foreign Office. But Ed Miliband is a strong personality. The rest of the world will gradually know who the British Foreign Secretary is. They may not like or dislike him. It's a separate issue. They'll know who he is because he's that sort of person. And that's good for Britain. That's very. Think of Radek Sikorski, who was Foreign Minister of Poland, a relatively medium-sized country. Most people who are interested in foreign policy will be able to tell you who the Foreign Minister of Poland is, because he's such a strong personality in his own right. So I'm no enthusiast for Ed Miliband, but in terms of his personality and his public ability to communicate, that ought to be a strength for the UK. Whether it is, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, it's interesting. Overnight, the White House apparently warned against that appointment.
You know, I get fed up with the current Trump administration advising every other country in the world who their ministers should be. We're a democracy. If you don't mind Mr. Trump or whoever it was on his behalf, mind your own business.
Brilliant.
It's our job in the United Kingdom to decide who our ministers are. And not yours. And
Wes Streeting, Defence Secretary, they kept him waiting. It was about 11 o'clock at night.
Yes,
again.
Fascinating. Well, I think that's partly because there were various other people who were being offered the job first. We know that Rachel Reeves was offered the job, for example, and declined it.
You think somebody else was offered the defence job before? Who do you think was offered it?
Well, we know, if the press reports are correct, when Rachel Reeves was told by Burnham that she wasn't going to continue as Chancellor, he offered her two alternative jobs in the cabinet. As I understand it, one was as, I think, Education Secretary or Health Secretary, I can't remember which, but the other, it is reported, was as Defence Secretary. Yeah, quite.
I'm not sure whether... Listen, we'll go with believing it. I'm not sure, maybe politics...
It doesn't frankly matter.
I will say this. That would have been amusing, because Healy couldn't get a penny out of her when she was the Chancellor. Imagine if it had been... but one thing that has come out of all of this, Malcolm, and I'd love your take on, is a lot of people are saying, you know, Wes Streeting, not a particular criticism of him, but so many ministers move around. He's got absolutely no defence experience whatsoever, has he?
Well, you know, you can't automatically find, for example, somebody who's been a doctor or a medical guy to be a health secretary. That's not what you're looking for. You know, when I became Defence Secretary, I never served in the armed forces before.
No.
That was not the issue. If you're going to be a health secretary, you're not expected to know how to do a heart transplant. That's not your job. As Secretary of State, whether it's in the Health Department or the Ministry of Defence or whatever, your job is not to tell, in the case of defence, is not to tell the generals and the admirals and the air marshals how to do their job. It is to ensure that the resources are available, that if Britain has to go to war and use our armed forces, that the armed forces have been provided with the capability required, and matters of that kind. And you can do that. Of course, you can't do it the first day you've arrived, unless you've done that job before. But in a democracy, when people are being chosen, and not just in a democracy, the same applies in dictatorships. You choose the best individual in terms of their personal qualities. If they happen to have had experience in that area as well, that's an added bonus.
Final question. What did you prefer, Sir Malcolm Rifkin? The Foreign Secretary with the large grace and favour and the jets all over the place, or Defence Secretary? What was your preferred...
I think you've just answered your own question.
Good man, Sir Malcolm. Thank you so much indeed for coming on. He liked being Foreign Secretary, the private jets and the big house. Just before we go, I want to just speak very briefly, if I can. Retired Scotland Yard detective. Actually, let's just say Tony on a voice note. Tony, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. Tony from the New Forest here. Perhaps we don't need a Chancellor of the Exchequer anymore. Andy Burnham is just making his own economic announcements without any consultation with anyone.
Fantastic. Jez, how can the Labour Party be taken seriously when they put out videos of themselves placing pictures on the wall saying, "I'm back," after being sacked? This was Angela Rayner. They said, "Welcome back to the department," put her up. As somebody here says, Neil in Stoke-on-Trent, just to remind me how much she actually received in severance pay. Yes, it was £17,000. She was sacked, being paid 17 grand, is back in the Cabinet within 10 months. People are jumping up and down saying she should give that money back. Let's say a very, very, very quick good morning to Mike Neville, a retired Detective Chief Inspector. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
I haven't got time, I know, and I really appreciate you coming on. I am beyond angry about this story. PC Andrew Harper, of course, a serving officer who died. He went to investigate a theft. He was dragged along a country road about 7 years ago for miles. His ankles got caught in a tow rope. He died. Two disgusting little thugs, Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, got given 13 years, Mikey. They've done 6. They're out today, and even cabinet ministers were laughing about early release. I think it's a stain, I really do.
It's absolutely wicked. I was helping Thames Valley Police, and I've actually stood in front of the memorial and honoured this officer who died in the most wicked way. The two thugs showed no remorse at all in court in front of his Andrew's wife and mother. They deserve to be kept in prison. The fact that Labour ministers are laughing about this just sums it up. And if you look at the person they're laughing at, Alex Norris, who's taken over, they say they'll let them all out. He was actually... he was the Minister for Borders, and look how bad that is. The borders have failed. He will see, he's left-wing, he will see that the people coming across the border are asylum seekers fleeing war, and he'll see all criminals as victims of society. And we're not going to solve crime by treating criminals with kid gloves like this. These two need to be locked up and kept in jail for a long time.
When I watched that hot mic moment with Wes Streeting and with Shabana Mahmood, I just thought, well, that is such a kick in the face for, you know, victims' families and anybody associated. Listen, Mikey, we've talked before. I think if you get a year, 2, 5, 10, 15 or life, it should mean that. Otherwise, it diminishes the punishment meted out for the crime, and presumably means you can go, well, I could do it again because I know I'm only going to get 3 years for that. That's fundamentally the wrong message, isn't it?
These two young men took a life and they're going to be out after about 6 years. They should be locked up for good. What the government should be doing is not releasing people because there's too many prisoners. They should be building more prisons. Yeah. You know, give me the job, Jeremy. I'll do it. Give me a regiment of Royal Engineers who've got the equipment, and we can put up some camps and we can put some offenders in there, a few men with dogs, and we would keep them inside. We need prisoners to be locked up to make our community safer, and they need to know that crime means punishment.
Yeah, but you can't. Sorry, hold on a second. That you can't keep them inside because that's disrespectful, isn't it? Can I just? This is brilliant. This is. How would you pay for it? I could pay for it in a heartbeat. Stop giving 11 billion quid in foreign aid. Build prisons. Build a couple of warships. Do what you should be doing. But all we've got at the moment from our new Prime Minister is 2p off buses. They tell me this story is true. Alligator Alcatraz. Talk to me, Mikey. This is bloody brilliant.
I sent this in. I saw the Israeli government are using innovation here. They've reclassified what an alligator is, so it's can be sort of I don't know, can be used by the government. And so they've built a prison, and they're going to put alligators in the moat to keep the prisoners.
Is this Israel? Is this Israel?
This is in Israel, yeah. So, but it's nice to see innovation, I always think.
So Alligator Alcatraz was muted by Trump in Florida, wasn't he? He said, the way we'll keep them all in prison is we'll have a moat round the outside and crocodiles, and everybody went, he's barking. They're doing this now in Israel?
They absolutely are. So, as I say, they had to reclassify what an alligator was to make it, you know, able to be used like a dog, I suppose. But
can you imagine if those alligators worked as civil servants? Have you heard this story today? They face formal sanction if they misgender trans colleagues. Are you happy to be called Mike, him or it, or what do you prefer?
Well, my brother calls me Oz. Maybe that should be my pronoun.
Oz? Why does he call you Oz?
I don't know. He's done it since I was a kid, so it's.
You got to ask. I mean, you can't just be walking around being called Oz without knowing, man.
I have no idea. It's like Buzz Aldrin was called Buzz all his life. So my brother's always called me that.
I was called Kyle Pyle Hemorrhoid at school. It's absolutely true.
I'm sure it's character building for you.
It wasn't. It was devastating, actually, and I cried for many weeks. Mikey, on a serious note, do you see... the justice system, more police, stronger sentencing or anything under this government, or is it just going to drift and drift and drift?
It's going to drift and drift and drift. You've got people who've got a mindset, as I said, that criminals are actually victims of society, that they should be treated rather than punished. While you've got that mindset, the guy who's now in charge, like I said, it's Alex Norris. I can't see he's ever had a proper job, really. He's one of these characters who went to a nice school, went to university, got a politics degree, then got involved in local politics, and so he's there, and he will just be. He will see nothing wrong with releasing these people. We need a tough government that will crack down on crime, and when police officers are working hard to catch criminals, they should see that those criminals go to jail. Yeah. And when officers like Andrew Harper are killed on duty, those people who do that should face the full force of the law.
I couldn't agree more, but you've just reminded me of my final point that I've been trying to remember all day. Do you know, after the Cabinet was reshuffled on Monday and they met yesterday morning, that 80% of the Labour Cabinet went to private school? Isn't that just summing up where we're at, mate?
The hypocrisy. I went to a grammar school. They kicked that ladder away, the left. That's where working
destroyed for added VAT to private schools. Look down their goddamn noses, and most of them went to private school in Oxbridge, and they spout on about council houses. Do they understand working people? No, because they weren't actually that. Listen, mate, an absolute pleasure as always. You're always welcome on this show. The brilliant Mike Neville on Talk Breakfast. What is it? 5 to 10. So Julia from 10. Ian Collins, is he over the lurgy? Poor bugger was sick the other day. He should be back at 1. We need a bit of dedication. Come on, mate, get going. And Kevin O'Sullivan in his smelly socks from... Why have I done that? Kevin O'Sullivan looking very, very good nowadays. I don't know if he's started to work out or he started to drink less. He started to... Is Kevin O'Sullivan had Botox? Has he? No, surely not. 5 to 10.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you know what she always says? Don't talk about anything we talk about on air, off air. If I could repeat what she's just been talking about. Yes, my face is frozen. I'm older than you, and everything's. How much was a Mars bar? The first Mars bar you mentioned, you remembered.
I don't remember, but it would have been under 20p, definitely. And I'm tiny bit younger than you.
I thought she was 10 years younger than me.
God bless him.
Juliet Hartley-Brewer, it's not been a particularly auspicious start by Andy Burnham, has it? Buses today.
I'm incredibly surprised by this. Not at all. I mean, it's all falling apart. A man with no plan. I mean, I'm sorry, he had no plan. Oh, I think, everyone kept going on at me about, things like the income tax threshold. Did they? Was that the thing that people brought up? But apparently there's not a plan to actually raise it and help people. Just that ridiculous, 45 quid extra a year on VAT on electric bills, and then another